Hey guys, we are live and I'm Kaylee. This is my channel if you didn't know. And these are my awesome friends. Yeah, I pointed the right way. Go me. My awesome friends to the side of me, Tim and Katie from the channel, Tim and Katie. So I'm super excited to have them. We are all big fans of the Netflix television show Haunting of Hill House. And we're going to be talking about it tonight, kind of like in a trivia form and also question form about like our favorites and our least favorites, and just talking about this awesome series that I just recently watched. I think I watched it, it might have been about a year ago, maybe. Maybe not even that long. It was maybe last October. I think I watched it around Halloween. And did y'all watch it when it first came out, or did y'all?
I did.
He did, okay. And then I watched maybe like 4 months later.
Yep. And then we bought the Blu-rays, and then we watched it again together, and now we just watched it again together.
Yeah. So it's y'all's, what, Tim, it's your third time watching through?
Fourth.
I've been through it 4. Katie's
and
3.
Three. I think I've seen it. I think this time was my third. But I missed so much, honestly, and I probably will miss a lot going back. All right. So before we get into all of the questions, there's one question I wanted to start off with. It was actually Tim's suggestion to ask this question. I don't know my answer. Like, I can't really answer this. So I'm just going to ask Tim and Katie. And that is, how many hidden ghosts did you find while you were watching during this rewatch? Do y'all know how many hidden ghosts y'all found?
13.
13.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Apparently there's like maybe 40 to 50.
Well, people have, I mean, there's different compilations and lists online, of course, but Mike Flanagan himself has said, like, no matter who asks him, did I find them all? His answer will always be, you're missing one. So no one knows how many are actually in there.
And a fun fact about the hidden ghost thing is that apparently this is a comment we learned, or a fact we learned from watching the commentary, is that every single day when they were on set at Hill House, they would have a dozen or so actors in full-on ghost makeup waiting to be placed somewhere. And he's like, yeah, there were people who were there every time he wanted them, even if they weren't even used that day, but they loved it. They loved getting in the full costume, and they just wanted to be put somewhere. So I just thought that was really cool. And I was like, I would do that. I would 100% do that. Full makeup, stand there, watch these brilliant actors work all day, and then maybe by chance go stand in that corner over there. Oh my gosh.
Well, the reason he had to stress that is because for an actual, someone who's taking their career very seriously, this was something that was really off the cuff. Like, they would try to find a place in certain scenes to hide like a ghost, but they would try never to duplicate the hidden ghost, according to Mike. I don't know whether or not to believe him, honestly, because he's lied to us about stuff like this before. But according to Mike, he would have like scenes he'd have in mind. Okay, this is a good scene for a ghost, but they wouldn't know where to put the ghost until they got the set and the people in place. And then when they were looking at the shot in the camera, they say, right there. All right, let's call someone. But they would have to keep using like the same 6 or 7 people over and over again, because those are the people who came back. And the people who weren't used after showing up and getting dressed and sitting around all day unused didn't come back.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
it's super cool. I'm disappointed that we only found 13, but maybe that's a good number. I don't know.
I think that's a good number for this show, for sure. Okay, so going into our next question that kind of relates to that, and that is, what do you think, or who do you think was the scariest ghost that y'all found? And this can be one of our main ghosts, or it can be one of the ones that you found. I know Tim mentioned one. I don't know if you want to stick with your answer that you already told me, but
do you want to? I'm almost positive it's the same for you and me.
It might not. No, because mine's not a hidden ghost.
No, mine's not either.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it don't have to be hidden. It can be one of the.
Okay.
It can be
what's your ghost?
We'll just, on the count of 3, we'll both say it, and if it's the same thing, then I win whatever private bet I had with myself. Hi, Christina. All right, ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Crawl space. Tall man.
Oh, I forgot. Okay.
The tall man, bowler hat man, cane man is my second scariest ghost by just a little bit. the scariest ghost to me, because it does freak me out every time I watch it, is the one that Luke encounters when he goes into the crawl space and that thing just crawls out from behind the barrel, and it's scary, and it's coming for him, and he is so scared, and I hate it. And every time we watch it, I'm like this on Tim, like, no, make it stop. No. The tall man is creepy as all get out, though.
But the tall man is creepy in perpetuity.
He is.
He's there like the entire show,
yeah,
in various capacities, and he never stops being scary.
And the way he haunts, adult Luke, I think is very sinister, and I think he's an excellent choice for scariest ghost.
Yeah, Christina said that man was freaky.
I knew we could count on Christina.
My answer was actually going to be the same one as Katie, so the little basement
crawl space
cellar. Yeah, that ghost is going to be mine. But Tall Man was number 2 for me because, well, when I first watched it, I think I would have said Tall Man, because not even for Luke, that was creepy. But that last scene, well, not really last scene, but the last prominent scene for him, that is him and Steve, and he like gets in Steve's face. Oh my gosh, I hated that the first time. I was like, oh my God.
Shivers thinking about it.
But going, like, rewatching it, I definitely, the crawl space one, because that would have freaked me out. Like that, that one was bad.
Basements, crawl space, anything.
Yeah.
Well, the lack of music in that scene really made it worse too.
And just the terror that, Luke screaming.
Yeah.
And Theo trying her best to get him back up. It's 3 times now I've seen it, and it's still scary. And I still I don't want to.
Well, another one I didn't even think of, but it's reminiscent of that one, is when Olivia is coming after Theo and Hugh in the office, and she's like crawling. Oh, yeah. And that kind of reminds me of the crawl space one, but she's creepy when it's her doing that. And then like when she reaches for Luke, and those freak me out too. She always is so creepy. So I don't know. Actually, I might pick her for those, because those were creepier almost to me than the crawl space one, because like you could see her face real good, and it was just Theo is freaking out.
I mean, did you catch the white woman this time around when
I didn't get to rewatch it after you sent me that photo. Yeah. But I thought that's who you were gonna pick, because you sent me that.
I mean,
she does terrify me, and even more so because she pops up twice, because it's a hidden ghost for those of you who don't know who we're talking about. There's in the scene where Hugh is reaching into the brick wall to try and find the rats he thinks are there. There's an out of focus woman in the background who is painted solid white, long flowing hair, and she's literally just peeking around the corner like this.
Yep.
And she's stagnant like that. She just stays put the entire scene. Then the following scene, when all the cops are standing around, she's doing the same thing, but further back behind all the cops.
And her hand is out like this. Scary.
And you just can't watch the scene the same way again once you see it.
Yeah, Christina is shook. Her number 1 would have been Tall Man, and her number 2 would have been the Bent Neck Lady. Breakneck Lady.
I will say that the Bent Neck Lady, the first watch through, definitely the scariest.
Did we do a spoiler warning? Because there's this.
Well, I feel like honestly,
Bent Neck Lady was the scariest, but after knowing who she is, after rewatches, she's not scary to me anymore. She's just tragic. Yeah. But I'm sorry, we're getting off tangents already. But when Hill House came out, I was actually in a period of my life when I was actually having the same sleep paralysis problems that Nell was having. So Tim was describing it to me, and he was like, because I hadn't seen the show yet. He's like, this character has sleep paralysis, and I've like Nell, when Nell's like stiff and not waking like not, she's awake but not moving, like I had been through that. So anytime we're like watching, like I see Nell trying to get out of it, like moving her fingers, clenching her, like I've been there, and I have seen some stuff under sleep paralysis, like dark figures looming over me, people I know, dead people. met. So anyway, I should have talked about that, broke that up later, but.
Hey, whoa, you can't rebrand the character.
I know, but it's like, yeah, it's just, oh, that was sad. That was so sad.
Like, yeah.
Okay. I had some good questions. I'm trying to save some, but I feel like this is like the natural next one to ask is, I don't know why you're getting called Katie, but you got called Katie.
Oh, because I did this.
Oh, I was like, why did you get called? Okay, so the next question, moment most likely to make you cry, like while you're watching the show, or saddest moment. This one's
I'll go last on this
I
one.
have two answers because there's one moment
I
that
cry every episode. It's hard for me.
Oh yeah, I think I do cry in every episode except for maybe like one, but there's two parts that pretty much always make me cry, and one is because of sadness, and one is actually out of like relief and happiness. But when I guess I'm gonna say three things actually. Sorry, it's too hard to pick one. But when Steve encounters Luke stealing from him the first time, and that one I didn't cry on the first watch because I didn't know what was going on. But every rewatch since, knowing the story, the motive, and the motivation behind why Luke is trying to steal from his brother, and that he isn't actually withdrawing from any drugs at that time, and he doesn't realize he's feeling the twin thing with Nell. And Steven is just like, I'm all right, dude, here's some money, and please give me the iPad. And it's just like, Steven's like, I've given up on my brother in that moment. And Luke is just like, you don't understand. I'm not high. I'm not withdrawing or whatever. So that part makes me cry. And then the part that makes me cry again is when, this happens later in the series, but happened before this chronologically, when Nell is dropping Luke off at rehab. And that's the last, you realize then that's the last time they ever see each other. And Luke, basically begs her to go buy him some heroin so that he can get high one more time before he goes to rehab. And Nell has to go buy it. And, she sees Bent Neck Lady in that moment because it's like another defining moment in her life. And then, the last time she sees her brother is him, shooting up in her car. So that makes me cry of sadness. The part that makes me cry of happiness and relief every time is it's the epilogue scene with the If I Go, I'm Going song, and just the reconciliation going on. Steven reconciling with Lee, Shirley reconciling with Kevin. And the part that hits me like a rock in the chest every time is seeing Luke with they're celebrating his 2 years sober. I'm already tearing up thinking about it. And just the victory that represents. It's the family all together again for the first time without, death being in the way. And yeah, so I cry every single time. I listen to that song sometimes and I cry just thinking about it. So those are my crying moments. Top crying moments. I cry, as we said, I cry in a lot of episodes.
Mike Flanagan actually had that song picked out. He said before the show even started filming, he was listening to it on loop in his car and sobbing himself. And then he just said,
this has to be in Hill House.
When the producers asked him what, if music needed to be licensed for the show, he's like, 2 songs. Yeah. Here they are.
And the other one was The Heavenly Day by Patty Griffith, that Eleanor and Arthur's dance.
Oh.
So. All right, you're crying.
I should have asked this question. No, I think I need to come back to me.
Okay.
Both of mine are associated with my favorite, like 2 of my quotes. So I can't really say it. So I'm gonna put a little mark. I will come back to this one for me towards the end. I should have thought about that before.
That's okay.
Go ahead, Tim, if it's not going to spoil your quotes.
It shouldn't. So mine is Luke's episode hit me in many different ways because, you figure out the format after Theo's episode if you haven't caught on already. The first episode is largely about Steven. Second episode's about Shirley, and so on and so forth. By the time you hit Theo, you start thinking to yourself, that makes Luke the next. Man, I don't want to watch a whole episode of Luke getting into drug stuff. And so, like, all you know about Luke at that point in the show is Stephen caught his own brother trying to steal stuff from his apartment, and you, of course, assume the worst. It's a terrible thing to see on screen, even before you know Luke, but you instantly dislike him. And then you go into his own episode, and I mean, I don't know what everyone else's expectations were, but I truly went into that episode thinking, I don't want to spend a whole episode watching this guy. I think he's just like he's not a good character. He's like, he makes me angry. And then lo and behold, like the whole episode turns all of your that was honestly the first twist for me, was that Luke isn't, trying to steal from his brother to get high. He's trying to steal from his brother to save his friend. His friend is actually the one who's slipped up, and Luke, for the first time in his life, has gone 90 days without shooting up. And so the moment that comes to my mind, I mean, like you said, every episode makes you cry in some form or fashion, I think. But the moment that comes straight to my mind is when Luke leaves the center to chase after Joey, and he comes to the parking lot where he knows that she used to, meet up with her dealer, and he sees her approach the dealer, take the drugs, and walk away. He walks up to her, and she's like obviously surprised to see him, but she's not like unhappy. She's not happy. She's just like totally kind of like dazed. And she's like, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "I know your spots." And then it just like hits her like a tidal wave that she has fallen all the way back from where she was. I think it was 9 months sober, all the way back to the bottom of the pit. And she just starts like sobbing there in the parking lot. And that hit me especially hard because I have known someone who struggled with addiction. I know how much of a toll it takes on people and their families. And number one, to have expected the worst of Luke, only to see him being the hero of this scene, and also to see someone that is just so devastated by their own choices that it just totally overwhelms, that just really hits me hard. I don't know that I can explain it necessarily. It just like it's like a sucker punch to the gut in a way that other moments would soon be. But that was the first defining moment of sadness for the show, in my opinion.
Yeah, that one was sad. Let's see what Christina said. She said when they talked about the caretaker's children, when Luke had Nell buy the drugs, before we knew it was going to be successful, and Theo figuring out about the abuse. Yeah. That was a hard episode.
That is such a hard
I have a lot to say about that one too, but I'm saving it for.
That's why you cry in every episode.
You do. I mean, and it's like I try to even remember what made me cry, but it's hard to like even remember what was it that made me cry in each episode. But I like really every single episode there was at least one part where I was just crying, and yeah, it's just hard. It's a hard show to get through. Okay. Hang on. Let me find the next one. Okay. So do we want to go ahead and get our quotes? Well, I have one.
I feel like you have to keep tiptoeing around stuff until you do your quotes. So
well, we'll do one more if you guys think you can answer it without spoiling your quotes. And then we'll go ahead and get the quotes out of the way just so I can quit stressing about spoiling the quotes. Okay, and this one's best twist. So is that cool for you guys? Can we answer this one? Okay. I will go first on this one. I told Tim and Katie because I can only really think of one that was like a big twist for me, which I'm sure when y'all start talking, I'll be like, oh yeah. But for me, the one when I watched it the first time, I kid you not, I really thought that what's her name? Abigail was like it didn't associate that Abigail was a real person. I didn't associate that Abigail was their daughter. And I swear, like you watch it back and you're like, I was such an idiot. Like it's so obvious.
So many hints.
So obvious. And then she just pops up in Luke's bed and I'm like, oh, she's real. And then, that poison scene, that was a shot. Like that whole part from her getting out of the bed and her being real to that poison scene, I was like, what?
Flanagan said on the commentary track, what a great irony that up until you see Abigail as a real person, she is a real person, but the minute you see and realize that she's a human being, she dies. She becomes a ghost.
That was probably the one thing where I like that whole part, I was like, oh, what?
No.
And then looking back, you're like, oh my gosh, like how did I not know? For
You
real.
didn't. You got fooled the first time.
I definitely got fooled, the first time. And then I
time.
was so mad at myself when I went back. Like, cause see, Clara is so clearly painting a picture of the fact that she does have a living daughter.
Mother.
She is a mother. We haven't seen the daughter. We don't know anything about the daughter. So we assume the daughter's, I don't know, at boarding school. But in reality, like every time she's about to mention apps, she says, I don't know what I would do if I lost my... Anyway, here's this pitcher of water. And if she'd been allowed, like anyone who knows how the show ends can now go back and put words where they're supposed to be and be like, oh...
Well, the one that got me that I noticed was she said, oh, like we lived through the woods and all this stuff. And then like we see that scene where like Luke is like waving at Abigail, like he sees her. She's on the edge of the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. It's just, you see that. And then you're like, it's so obvious.
Well, even like Mr. Dudley, when he's telling this, when he's telling the story about how their first child, he says our first. Like he doesn't say our only, or he doesn't say anything. He says our first. There's so many hints. It's so It's like I think it was meant to be a powerful twist, and I think it's a great one in a great one to have chosen for your favorite twist, Kaylee. But yeah, when you're rewatching it, it's like, oh,
it was one of the more obvious twists because I like
all of them are obvious. Every single twist of the series is obvious once you know.
I think So my favorite twist, and honestly, they all got like pretty much all the twists got me. I will say that there was nothing I figured out, I think, but mine is Bent Neck Lady, because of how I think because of how it does play, like when you do rewatch it and then you get to, watch it from knowing, who Nell is, and, it just makes, I don't know, it adds like a whole nother layer to the story. But yeah, definitely didn't get that from the beginning. Definitely thought she was some ghost, who picked Nell out as a little kid and was just haunting her forever. The first time I watched it, when Arthur dies of the aneurysm, Tim had to like stop the show and explain to me that no, he died from an aneurysm. Bent Neck Lady killed him. I was like, she killed him. No, his neck was bad. She killed him. And he's like, no. He died, and I was like, no. So
it's just really unfortunate timing.
Yeah, it's
I really still thought, even like, as they're like, oh, it was an aneurysm. Like, no, it was the Bent Neck Lady.
Well, so you realize more and more. I'll touch on what Christina's saying in just a second too. You realize more and more as you watch that episode in particular over again. So Liv talks later about how she's sensitive, and that Theo is sensitive, and that Nell and it's just Nat's honey. That Nell is sensitive, that Theo's sensitive, and Shirley, they don't talk about being sensitive, but she obviously has like sleep forecasts.
Yeah,
some kind of sleep. So Liv has all of the above. Nell's sensitivity is never really fleshed out in words, but it's very clear that she has some kind of foresight. Like she sees her dark futures, whatever they may be, in her moments of most trauma. So she's alone in a house by herself for the first night. She's scared of every creak in the wall. Here comes trauma, and it's the Bent Neck Lady. And then you go on. Yeah, it's terrifying. Then Arthur's death, the aneurysm, that's a genuinely terrifying moment. Bent Neck Lady appears, but the Bent Neck Lady isn't responsible for the moment. The Bent Neck Lady appears because it was a traumatic moment. And so as Nell goes back, so the Bent Neck Lady is my biggest twist as well, because no matter how many times I watch it, it always blows my mind how neatly everything stitches together. And it also, that whole scene of her falling through her past and realizing what's going on. Not only do you it's such a great moment of acting for Victoria Pedretti, because you can see everything sinking in on her face, but it's also it never fails to send spines shivers up and down my spine.
I'm just thinking about it and I feel it. But when you get to the very last part of that episode and she's finally realized, oh my gosh, I'm looking at myself as a child in the bed. And then she lets out that scream and then it cuts. And Tim and I are just like, oh,
give me the blanket.
Oh, the chill.
I know. It's so sad to me too, to like see her kid self and then be like, oh my goodness, like it's such a tragic ending. But that's one, I didn't understand that twist until my third watch through. I remember watching it the first time and I'm like, what? What? I was so confused. I was like, I didn't understand. But I think really, yeah, it's like you said, Tim, it's like the foresight, kind of like she can see parts of the future. She can kind of see through time kind of thing. So I don't know. It's crazy, but I finally kind of understand it.
And to Christina's point, by the way, the
hang on. This about the Ventnet lady real quick. What trauma was Nell experiencing when she was in bed as a girl to see the bent neck?
Oh,
it was the
first night in the
new house.
And knowing when her mom said, she never actually said it on screen, but her mom had said previously that when Nell walked into the house, she said it's loud.
It's loud.
So
yeah.
Nell could obviously tell that there was something wrong with the house. She didn't know what. And as a kid, she wasn't prepared to articulate that. But in her bed at night, she was terrified of something she didn't understand, and in comes trauma in representation of her future self. And she blames everything on the trauma.
There's kind of like this theme with Nell of like time not being like Nell's time is not linear or whatever. And that's how,
especially after death.
Yeah. So even though it's like a what came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing, where it's like, okay, but the bent neck lady appears because there was some sort of, traumatic moment happening. But, you think about the one where she's like lying on the couch and like
it's her first moment of sleep paralysis.
Yeah. She opens her eyes and yeah. So it's definitely, believe me, Christina, when we all did the first watch through, we all had plenty of questions after seeing it. It's a lot to absorb. There's like 5 or 6 twists that hit you different ways.
Well, so I do want to address her.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tim, about that one.
I think this was
the second biggest
almost
twist.
The one I picked.
Because
I actually thought Tim was going to pick this one. That was my reason.
Yeah, so watching the show for the first time, after the bent neck lady twist, I was like, okay, I understand exactly what's happening now. Nothing else can surprise me. This is just going to be a showdown between good and evil. Let's go. But at that moment, driving in the car, and I wasn't truly cognizant of the Red Room's role in this until the finale, when Nell had to basically hit me on the head and explain it to me. But driving in the car, when Hugh says there was no treehouse, and it just becomes so stupid obvious that there never should have been a treehouse because they were flipping the house. And why would you build a treehouse for your kids that are only going to be there for 6 weeks? And Steven is sitting there absorbing everything at the same speed I am and having realizations that he wished he didn't have to have. And that was the second time that Flanagan really got me and pulled the wool over my eyes. And I was sitting there kicking myself for not thinking of it earlier, but also like experiencing those chills again. I don't experience those chills every single time I watch, though. Mostly the bent neck lady does that for me. But the Red Room was the second biggest twist of the show for sure.
Yeah.
One thing I saw was one question I'd seen, like kind of looking and trying to understand a little more about this show, was someone had asked, like, why does Hugh not have a red room? And I kind of have an answer for that, but I wanted to go to Tim and Katie. Do you know, like, what do you think about the red room and Hugh? And that kind of, because every kid had a red room, and even Olivia had a red room. It was her reading room. So what about Hugh? What do y'all think in terms of Hugh in the red room?
So I think that, I think they make it pretty obvious that each one of the daughters has some of Olivia's
juju.
You can call it what you want. Stephen King called it shine. Being able to, I don't know, there's some sort of like ability to see or feel or sense beyond the plane that we know of reality. So I feel like maybe the kids all had, the daughters definitely do, but maybe like Luke and Stephen did as well. And the house could sense that and they used it. But also Hugh, I think it's kind of like the house thought they couldn't trick Hugh, maybe. And because he was very adamant about imaginary friend, there's nothing, there's no haunting here. There's I mean, what is, like, big boys know what's real and imaginary, all the things that he says. So my guess is that the house was like, okay, he's a lost cause. We're not going to even try. Even though
this guy has no soul.
and then like that gets flipped and he ends up being the only one that's, truly convinced, after that summer that no, that house is definitely messed up. And that's my theory. I don't actually know the answer.
I agree with that. I think it's further punctuated in two instances. Number one is where Liv has her own this is how Nell's superpower is manifested in Liv, because she walks into the what's it called?
The morgue.
The morgue. There we go.
Or,
the morgue, and sees her future kids on the slabs, and she knows those are my future kids. She's like, that's the only future sight I think she has the entire show, but it's so vivid for her that she knows it's legitimate. And she goes to tell Hugh, and Hugh says, gosh,
what a scary dream.
What a horrible dream. I mean, you clearly dozed off. And then you can see on her face, I did not doze off, Hugh. I did not doze off, but I can see there's no talking to you about this.
Yeah.
And then the kite in the line speech, which I hope isn't spoiling anyone's quote, but him saying, I was the one who was grounded and your mom was up in the clouds.
Oh, I like that quote.
Oh, I like it too.
That was not one of my quotes though, but I do like that quote.
No, I definitely, I think it's a very apt metaphor for the type of people that they were. Hugh is, I think, to paraphrase everything that Katie is saying, he's not accessible to the spirit realm. He is someone that they can torment, but like it has to be indirectly. It has to be by driving his entire family apart, approaching the kids who are very vulnerable, attacking Liv, who's like super sensitive. Those are all tricks that the house can play. But Hugh himself, I mean, the only thing that the house really does to him before that night was the fan, which was not fun to watch.
Oh no!
But that's all he had. Everything else was, he's very logic based and grounded. So,
yeah. Well, before I get on to Christina's question, I was going to tell you guys what I found someone's theory. This is not my theory. I could have never come up with this theory. It's too over my head. But one person actually said they thought Hugh did have a red room because he was all about fixing the house, and then the mold, they couldn't figure out like how the mold was happening or like the water and stuff. And it was like coming from the red room is what this person thought. Cause like in the red room, there's all that mold and stuff, and like the house wouldn't fix itself. And so like, in the sense that was kind of like the red room for Hugh. I don't know. It made a lot of sense when I was reading it. It honestly did, but I can't articulate it probably as good, but they were saying like it all was sourced from the red room. Cause there's that quote where it was like, the guy was like, I don't know where it's coming from. It has to be coming from that room that's locked. Like you have to get the key for that room or whatever. So, I mean, it makes it seem like it's all kind of going back to the red room. So in a sense, it's almost like Hugh did have a red room, just not the same way the kids did and Olivia did. And
that kind of goes hand in hand with ours.
Cool. And the house, I think it said something about the house wanted to keep Hugh busy, so it could like feed on the kids, and
exactly. Yes.
yeah. And yeah. So like in a way, I think he had a red room. It just was not a physical room because his job, like his whole job was, I need to fix it. So it was very enlightening, but that was a cool one. Okay, let's go ahead and get to our quotes. I'm really excited, even though I know these are like, I try to find some hard ones for you guys, but.
Do you want to do
Question.
Do like a round robin kind of?
Yeah, we're going to do one at a time. I'm sorry. Let me get Christina's question really
quick.
Oh,
yeah.
Leave her out. She says she doesn't understand why the house was so dangerous for Steve.
Because of what Hugh says.
Because Hugh, so it actually kind of spins directly off of what we were just talking about. So Hugh knew that the not particularly sensitive were less accessible to the house.
Oh yeah, okay.
But the fact that Stephen saw a ghost, that Hugh read the book and saw, oh no, oh no, my son Ken, he's slightly sensitive. Oh
Yeah.
dear. And then compounded with the fact that he didn't believe in ghosts. He thought he had all the answers. He was so sure of himself that he was easy prey, like a pride goeth before a fall type scenario. I think that does make the house most dangerous for Steve. Because the littler kids, all of them believed. Even Theo, especially Theo, even though she pretended that ghosts weren't real, she knew that she had supernatural abilities.
Yeah, it only took one for her just did the creepy seeing her mom thing. She was like, nope, that's it. Everything I remember is true.
And Luke and Nell never forgot that there were ghosts in the house and never stopped believing in the ghosts. So Steve is really the only kid in that whole set who pretended that he had all the answers, who managed to bury it, but still maintain that vulnerability of actually being sensitive enough to see and be affected by them, which kind of gives him a blind spot.
That was beautifully said. I was just thinking that I honestly, like, as soon as you started saying that, I was like, oh yeah, because like I did come to that realization. But my first realization when he says, because of what you wrote in the book, I'm like, the house is mad about the book? And that's just what
that was not a clock repairman, son. That was my ghost.
The house.
And then like 5 seconds later, I was like,
how dare you?
Yeah. It takes my brain a minute sometimes to not take the literal. It really does. It really does. Okay. Who wants to start? Tim, do you want to start? You got your paper up? Okay, I'm nervous.
I'm ready, but I think he's got a paper too. You can start if you want.
Whichever one, Tim. You're holding your paper up, so you're gonna go.
All right, I'm gonna go.
Start.
All right. So just to let you know, some of these quotes have been truncated so that I give you the meat of the quote without actually giving away the names embedded in them.
Christina said she thought that too. I'm glad it's not just me, Christina. Thank you. Okay.
That mouse is not happy about creative liberties.
No.
Go ahead, Tim. I'm ready.
Ready? She'd come home after a long shift or a night shift, and she'd be scattered.
Oh, yeah. Go
ahead.
Horace.
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
Did you have a different answer?
No. I mean, I call him Mr. Dudley because I forgot.
I guess we'll go like we did not talk about the rules. And I feel like bad because Christina, it probably will be. I guess it's just us three really playing. But Christina, you can say whether you knew.
You said the quote.
Okay, but I guess like in the future, we'll just like do our little hands.
Yeah.
We'll have to do it in front of your face because you're together.
I'll have to. Yeah.
Okay, Katie. Your first.
All right. Mine are easy. Sorry. Okay. I'll save this one for the last because it was one of my favorites. When we die, we turn into stories. And every time someone tells one of those stories, it's like we're still here for them. We're all stories.
Wait, Tim, were you first or was I first? I don't know.
No, you were first. Because you
were off screen. But were you really first? Off
no,
screen?
You're fine.
Sorry, I couldn't read my handwriting for a second. That's why I paused.
You stopped to be and Tim were like. Well, we can say it together if you want. 1, 2, 3. Olivia. Wait, what? Did you say it?
Who are you pointing at?
That was Olivia?
Yeah.
I thought it was Steven.
No, he's wrong. We're all stories in the end.
I thought We're All Stories in the End was one of his quotes that he used in the end monologue.
No, this is what Olivia says when she's talking to Shirley about the dead cat.
Hi, April.
April. No, and
that's true.
And honestly, I haven't looked this up whether if this is one of the because we realized in this watch through that some of the things some of the quotes and some of the dialogue comes directly from the original Shirley Jackson book, which has almost nothing to do story-wise with The Haunting of Hill House.
It's just
show.
A lot of honoring the source material.
We're All Stories in the End is a line that the Doctor says in a Doctor Who episode, and I don't know if Mike Flanagan or the writers heard that and decided to put it in this show, or if it's from the Shirley Jackson book and Doctor Who stole it first and put it in their show. I don't know. But when she says we're all stories in the end, I'm like, I've heard this before. But anyway, I do like it. I think it's a sweet sentiment about people.
That's a good one. I was going to go ahead and answer Christina's question because it actually relates to my next quote.
Okay.
All right.
Christina asked, what was with all the banging on the walls about? Was it because the sister were arguing? And it's because the little boy, it was, what's her face's little boy, Poppy, her boy, she said he like would bang on the walls to like get her attention or something. Like it was him banging on the walls.
And that scene, by the way, is actually from the Shirley Jackson book. I haven't read the book, but I have seen the 1999 adaptation, which isn't that great. But I have seen the most recent non-Hill House representation of that story. It's called A Haunting, and it's Liam Neeson, Luke Wilson, Catherine Zeta-Jones.
I love Liam Neeson.
It's not bad, but it's not great.
It's not.
I was just there at Liam Neeson probably the whole time. Like,
yeah. So the actual characters aren't related in the book. So it's Eleanor Vance and it's Theo, I don't know her last name, and Hugh Crane is actually the villain. He's the ghost that is in the house.
Ooh.
That's a neat kind of adaptation. But that scene with Theo and Eleanor, who wants everyone to call her Nell, is actually part of the book that's been carried over into the 1966 adaptation, the 1999 adaptation, and to Hill House. And only in this version does it actually mean anything because they're siblings who are having a fight and they need reconciliation. The previous two, it's just like a spook.
Yeah, I loved how, and I didn't catch, that was another thing I did not catch my first watch through. Poppy is the flapper one that was manipulating Olivia.
Yeah, the screaming Mimi.
The one that was crazy. Her and William, the tall man, they were married and they met in the mental institution. So they were both bonkers.
She is insane, but
she's kind of pretty when she's not all goosty.
Yeah. She is. Well, yeah, when there's that one shot, and there might be more, but I know there's that one shot where she's like older. Mm-hmm. Oh, she's creepy then. That's
just to remind you that she's also evil.
Dead.
Yeah. Okay, so my quote's pretty easy, but it's a little bit more obscure. It's actually a quote I did not remember even being in the show. It says, the kids' books are on the lower shelf, so even the little boy with the wheelchair can reach his favorites.
I remember this now. I feel like
it was Tim, but I'm not 100%.
I raised my hand, but I raised it off screen.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Olivia says
I did. I called you too. I feel like you knew it.
I didn't hear you say it. No, Olivia says it because it's when she's doing her she's in her trance. Yeah. And he was like, wow, what imagination. And you're watching it the second time or the third time and you're like, oh.
He literally says that's oddly specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. I mean, see, I don't even I didn't remember that quote. I just was finding it and I was like, oh, that's a good quote. And I like that it gives you a little context. Yeah, they are married. She says once was not enough, and I agree.
Time to go back through, Christina.
Time to go back through. All right. Go ahead, Tim. What's your next quote?
They get easier as they go, actually.
Happy wanted to play too. You want to play?
I was all the things, all the familiar things, but all of those colors, they're all gone now.
Oh, go kid.
Olivia?
Yeah.
Yes.
I figured the colors would give it away after we talked about Color Storm.
I thought it might have been Nell.
I thought it would have been Theo who said that, and I second guess myself.
It's something very Theo-like.
The colors made me be like,
Olivia.
Okay.
My next one. Some things can't be told. You live them or you don't, but they can't be told.
I don't know it.
It's Old Hugh.
Yes, Old Hugh.
Okay, I didn't know.
The very end after his tragic passing, when Stephen asks why he didn't tell.
Oh yeah, okay, I do remember that now. I wouldn't have known.
I just thought I don't know. It's still it's poignant to me too. Hi, Cappy.
You're getting tired, buddy.
I'm so bored.
Okay. This next one is one of my favorites, and it's pretty easy. And it's short, so get ready. Jesus wept.
Oh,
Hugh. Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah. Is it Hugh?
It's not Hugh?
Not Hugh.
It's not when he said. I remember.
Monica said twice, but I don't think
Oh,
it did.
oh, no. Sorry. I don't know why I said Hugh when I was not thinking of Hugh. It's Steve in the hallway when he drops all his stuff.
No.
Really?
Steve. Oh, this is a good one.
I remember this vividly. Why am I misremembering everything?
What?
Is it Clara?
Y'all are gonna hit yourselves in the face.
Oh my god.
Well, we could slowly go through every character in the show. We've already named 4.
Oh, I'm mad now.
Okay.
It's gonna be better at that.
Theo, when she goes to check on Nell, like when she goes to figure out what happened to Nell, she looks at her and says, "Jesus wept."
Oh my god.
That was the first quote that came to my mind because it's one of my favorite quotes.
It's the shortest verse in the Bible, right?
Yeah, that I was like, the Bible.
I know, but it stuck out to me because
Was it Peter?
that was one of my favorite. That was one of my favorite scenes. And what was I going to say? Was it one of the ones that makes me cry? Is that whole scene where she goes to Nell and she's trying to find out what happened, and she says that, and she's just so somber because the story with that. Because I kind of looked it up too, and I was like, why did she say that? But it was like because. When Jesus had gone to Lazarus and Lazarus was already dead, it said Jesus wept. And so it was like she hadn't reconciled with Nell. She was waiting on Nell to reconcile with her, and she never got that reconciliation. Mm-hmm. So it was a very beautiful moment. I thought that quote stuck with me. But
that's extremely deep, Kaylee.
I never thought about that.
I never processed that scene fully.
I thought y'all were gonna get it because the reason why is because that's like the only dialogue for like a hot minute is that one quote.
Well, I kind of got pulled into what happened next in that scene.
It's true.
I totally forgot about everything that was said aloud.
True. Okay, I'm glad I got to stump y'all.
No, that's a good stumper.
I didn't think that was going to be the stumper though.
Well, mine is, my other one is pretty straightforward. I was born 90 seconds before Nell, but she was always my big sister.
Yeah, that's a sweet one though.
Said by Lukey.
Hey! Thanks.
Hi.
Hey.
Welcome to the party.
We are guessing quotes, like who said quotes. And I just stumped them.
Yes.
Sweat.
I'm a little embarrassed.
Yeah.
I thought for sure y'all were gonna get that one. Oh, but it's okay. That's what's nice about doing this is like different ones stick out to different people.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one that really just stuck out to me.
No, it was a throwaway line to me.
It was the backwards swear that Steven said when he dropped all his stuff in the hallway. I don't know why I was confusing that.
Yeah.
It's too late now. The moment
that was a sweet quote, Christina. I like that one. That was like a really easy one though, but I appreciate it. Okay. Me and Katie didn't even fight for that one. Go ahead, Katie.
So I have 2 more. One is I'm saving as my actual favorite from the series, but
okay.
This one's definitely a throwaway.
Okay.
But I love it, and I have to edit it a little bit. But I'm getting my effing PhD.
Oh, I love that. I love that line, Theo.
Yes.
She was great. I loved it. That whole scene was beautiful. Like I thought it was great.
I just really like that.
Steven starts out by saying, "You want purses?" Or
he's like, "What you gonna get with your money?" And she's just like, "I'm getting my effing PhD." And then she goes and does great things with it. I just think
I loved it.
Did you have any? Oh no, Kaylee.
Okay, I have one. I have 2 more.
Okay.
So Tim, did you have one more after this?
No, I mean,
I got 4.
Those were my 3 quizzes.
I had a backup. I'm sorry.
That's...
We had 3, and I had a backup. So in case you guys got
one.
I
had 3, but I have my favorite too.
Okay, so
we're all doing our
favorite a throwaway, or is it one that we might have to guess?
I mean, you can guess it, but it's still my favorite. So
okay, I was just gonna say we can go ahead and do it like that. So I have 2 more. I'll go ahead and do them. I'll do the one that's a little more obscure, and y'all might need like a clue. I don't know. Y'all might can get it because y'all got the Olivia one. Okay, the quote is, "They have horses."
Nell.
You have a context clue.
Sorry, I should have raised my hand. That's Nell at the addiction treatment center.
It is. It's Nell when it's right as he's leaving. They have horses.
Did you know they have horses here?
Yep.
Good one, Kaylee.
Yep. That was kind of an obscure one.
Okay, I feel better about the stumper from the previous round now. Do you want to lead us? I mean, do you want to Is your other one the favorite quote? Because you could just.
Well, Katie has her favorite quote.
Yeah, I can say my favorite.
I really think, I don't know if this one is my favorite quote. I think my favorite quote is "The rest is confetti." That is like one of my favorite quotes. But also I love the Jesus wept one, and I love the next one I'm going to say. But I'll go ahead and let Katie go.
Oh, that's fine. So mine is most times a ghost is a wish.
Wait. I know this, but it's, oh my gosh, why don't I?
I mean, Tim knows
I know it. Tim, go ahead. I can't think of it.
It's Steven.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was having a mental block. I was like, it's one of the kids, and I can't think of which kid it is.
He says it in the opening monologue during his conversation with I can't remember her name.
Her name is like Mrs. Walker or something.
The lady who's
husband
passed,
and then
her husband had died.
And then he does it as part of his end monologue too.
Yeah. I remember it.
It gets me a lot because, I mean, first of all, it just carries its way through the whole series, you know, because different ghosts are haunting, you know, different people. Like, you know, Hugh sees Olivia sitting alive next to him all the time, and is she a ghost? Yes, but she's also kind of she's a coping mechanism that he's created. But you know, it's a wish. I wish my wife were here with me, and like I think about it a lot because especially when I rewatch the show, I think about it because I lost my dad in 2014, and very suddenly, and I saw him everywhere after that. And it was like, you know, a ghost is a wish. You wish he was there. I mean, I saw just days after he died, I saw like my uncle walking through the door behind me, but out of the corner of my eye, it was my dad. And I turned around like he was going to be there. And when he wasn't, I was broken. I was on the ground sobbing. And it's just like, I think about it, and you know, it's going to be 7 years since he died, and it's, you know, soon it'll be 10, and then it'll be 20. But I don't think I'll ever stop, you know, wishing he was there. A ghost is a wish, and it's just very, I don't know. I think it's just very relatable to me.
That's a beautiful, beautiful quote, and it meant something to you. It's very special, and that's what's nice about, again, these shows is different people get different things out of them. Christina also loves the confetti quote, which I feel like it's one of the most popular ones from the entire series, but it is a good, like the whole line about, you know, I loved you all completely and you'll love me the same.
The rest is
about
confetti.
Crying again.
It's beautiful. Okay, so my last quote, I feel like this one again is like it's like a throwaway one, but and it's one of my favorites, and it's also one of my saddest moments. I thought the house things had gotten you.
Oh, that's baby Luke.
The whole scene from like when Luke is like, "Don't do that again. I thought the house things had gotten you," and then like from the end where she's like there, and it's like between the little Nell saying, "I was here the whole time
and you didn't see me."
I'm still to this day, 4 watches in, I'm still not 100% sure whether that was the house or whether that was Nell. Because Nell, with her foresight, she could have actually, you know, not intentionally, but she could have caused herself to disappear because she knew on some level that one day her family was going to have to live without her. And on the other hand, the house could have just done the same because it wanted to mess everyone up a little bit. So I don't know. It's really like
it had to send Hugh and Olivia on that, you know, goose chase to find Nell throughout the house. So yeah, I mean, I think there's mysteries about the show that we'll never fully understand, and I think that's okay. And there's
Flanagan will never tell us.
And there's probably things about the house that the writers and stuff didn't understand, and they're like, we're not going to figure this out, so let's just leave it at that.
Okay, so moving on to our next question, I'm actually going to start with Christina because she answered the question.
Are you sure you don't want to start with Kathy? Kathy seems like he's got a lot to say.
What's your answer, Kathy? Let me know. I actually got in my ear. Okay, but Christina said that her favorite character is Theo. And so my next question for us is, you can say your favorite character too, but my actual question I want to know to make it harder is, who is your favorite Crane kid? And this includes, like, you can say like when they were younger versus when they were older. Or you can just say kind of overall, however you want to go about doing that. So Christina said Theo. I'll count that as her Crane kid. What do you say, Katie? I'll start with you.
So my favorite Crane kid is Luke. I like his I love his character development. He is this sweetest baby child, and I love him, and I want to protect him every time I watch it. I'm just like, no. And his, desperation to get his family to understand about, seeing Abigail and that she's not a ghost and she's real. And, the fact that his, the trauma in his childhood eventually, definitely led him down a very dark pathway. And, he the drug abuse and everything. I think that's really, I'm pretty sure we all know someone who struggles with abuse of some kind. So seeing him and then seeing him be able to overcome it in the end. And really, his 90 days sober, that was him. Like, his family wasn't there for him at that point. Like, he overcame it by himself. And then, with the help of his family and the support, he's able to stay clean for 2 years. And hopefully my theory and my preferred, ending is that he did it. He defeated his demons and he's clean forever. So yeah, I love Luke. I love Luke as a kid. I love him as an adult. I
love him in WandaVision.
I love him in WandaVision. I have to say that, I think everyone has a right to say, oh, my favorite little kid is this one, but my favorite adult is this one. But the kids and the adults do an excellent job of playing older and younger versions of it. So I have a really hard time separating the character when they're a kid and an adult, because I think they all just do a fantastic job. And Nell is like my second favorite. I can't help but love her because she is one half of Luke, and those two child actors are just fabulous, and I can't say enough good things about them. So I took a long time, but I'll say Luke. Second place.
I'm going to take a long time. Favorite episode.
Well, I wanted to say really quickly about the kids. Like, I feel like I can't really pick a favorite. Like, I loved all the kids. I thought they did a fantastic job casting the child actors to go with the adult actors. Yes. That was amazing, and all the kids did a great job. When they turn into adults, I kind of have some preferences, but more so the kids. They're all about the same for me. But I'll go ahead and let Tim answer before I get to my answer.
My answer is not what Katie thinks it's going to be.
Apparently not.
Katie, what do you think it's going to be?
My second favorite character is Theo. So I'm right there with Christina. It's a very thin margin because all the characters are very unique. They all have shared trauma, but they all deal with it very, very differently as adults. But in my opinion, and I'm not saying she's like a perfect human being, but I think the only kid who became an adult and still maintains kind of who that person was as a kid is Nell. Because throughout the entire show, and it's not even like, you can't even say it's a lack of development, because Nell has all kinds of demons that she struggles with for her entire life, but she never stops believing in what she saw as a kid. She never stops believing in her family, for one. She's always there for everyone, including Luke, who's failed everyone so many times, but she never gives up on him. She's there for him even when she has to go get the heroin herself to help him get well one last time, which was, as Katie said, just like a tragic scene to watch. But throughout Nell's entire episode, you know she makes mistakes. She's scared. She has her own demons to struggle against. But as Hugh says during the funeral, or not the funeral, the night before, when they're all gathering and talking about her, she was always thinking of her family first. She was never thinking about her own well-being. And tragically, in one of the commentary tracks that we listened to for the Bent Neck Lady episode, where you're walking through Nell's life, Flanagan brings up the fact that, if I'd thought about it, I probably would have registered, but I was so immersed in what I was seeing that I didn't think of it big picture. She reaches out to every member of her family in some capacity as she starts going through her death spiral. She reaches out to Steve at his book signing. She reaches out to Luke when she takes him to rehab. She reaches out to Theo and they get in their fight. And every single one of those instances, Flanagan says very candidly, if anyone had responded differently, if anyone had responded openly, believed her, accepted her, gave her a hug, she might have been saved.
Have gone to Hill House.
So I mean, Nell is a absolutely tragic character, but she's also a powerful force for good in the end. And it's really, really hard to put anyone above her.
No, and I almost had Nell as my favorite, and I chose Luke, but I felt like Nell is like, I don't know. I feel like she like supersedes all the other Crane children because of her. I mean, she really is the one that saves them all in the end. She's kind of the hero of the story. I mean, they're all heroes in the story, but I think she's kind of the hero in the end.
Yeah, I definitely think she is. I love Nell. I wouldn't say she's my favorite. I mean, she's up there. She's probably like second for me. But I'm going to go predictably with my girl Christina. I loved Theo. I loved all the kids, but like she was so good. Like I loved her struggle we saw. And just her, like the PhD moment where she's like, I'm going to get my PhD. And I just loved everything about her and her character and her, like we saw so much struggle with her. I don't know. Theo was my favorite. Okay.
My favorite character.
So going to the opposite side of that, which is a very hard question for me. Very hard question, is our least favorite of the Crane children.
We can probably answer
Ready?
at the same time.
1, 2, 3. Shirley.
Shirley's up there. Like I honestly am torn between Shirley and Steve. Like I kind of like, sometimes I'm like Shirley, sometimes I'm Steve, sometimes I don't know. Like I love
more empathetic.
So my first watch, my answer to the question would have been Steven. I hated how he was so obstinate about the mental illness thing and everyone's crazy and my family's crazy. But since I've seen it the first time, like now seen it, watching it through the second time. Yeah. Both the second and third time I watched it, I've been a married person, and the way Shirley shuts down, is unable. And I'm talking mostly like adult Shirley. Child Shirley's just kind of weird, and I'm like, whatever.
She's also has some of the same problems if she thinks she has all the answers.
She thinks she has all the answers and stuff. I don't really like that. But the way that Shirley handles her marital problems and her family problems by shutting people out and not letting them apologize and explain bothers me so much, because it's actually kind of one of my personal struggles too, is to like talk over people and not let Tim say his piece or whatever. It's something like, I have to work on. But ever since being a married person, especially the way she kicks her husband out, won't let him apologize, kicks Theo out, won't let her apologize. And she's just like, no, get out. Like this last watch through, like, I was like on the couch, like ready to punch someone. I was like, God, I'm so mad. I can't stand her. And to be fair, by the end of the story in the epilogue, when she's sitting on the couch talking to Kevin and she says, I've got to tell you something, it's going to be the hardest thing ever here, I'm sobbing because I'm proud of her in that moment. I'm proud that she's finally letting that go and talking to Kevin. And I know Kevin's a good guy and he's going to forgive her and they're going to be okay. But it's Shirley. I just can't.
Yeah.
Steven, I understood his motivation a little bit more rewatches.
There's actually a extended scene in the premiere and on the Blu-ray. Then the Blu-ray, you got like extended director's cuts that were restored after being cut down for Netflix. And there's one scene which, honestly, I totally get why they cut it out, because it doesn't do much for pacing. It doesn't do much for the arc of the show. And if I was watching it for the first time, it wouldn't have impacted my watch at all. But going back and watching it multiple times over and then having that scene added for me, there's a scene where Steve gets a call from his publisher while he's on the road back from the woman's house where he had just like debunked another ghost theory.
Mm-hmm.
And the publisher's like, anything at the house? And he's like, no, not really. There might be something there. I'm kind of figuring on, doing another short story composition. And the publisher starts really pressing him for like, what people really want? They want to know what happened to your family after Hill House. Like, tell more of the Hill House story. Tell more of the Crane story. And unlike at the library where Steve presented Alcatraz and Nell burst in and all of the people were asking questions about Hill House, and he was just calmly like, I'm here to talk about Alcatraz. I don't really want to focus on Hill House. You really get the sense in this deleted scene when he starts pushing back on his publisher, like, I'm not interested. I don't care about the money. I don't want to do that story. That he's really actually feels genuinely guilty about everything that happened with Shirley and Theo and Nell in a lesser extent, because I don't think she really cared until that one scene. But he's a much more empathetic character, knowing that little fragment of extra scene where he's truly does not want anything else to do with stories that involve his family because of what it's done to him as a character. And that, honestly, I didn't really think about it until maybe even just this second, but it really did make Steve more likable throughout the entire show, knowing that as much as he pushes back, as much as he's obstinate and he's like harping on mental illness because he doesn't want to face up to his own past or whatever his dad did, he really does care about his family. He wants to keep them safe. He calls Nell, even though he and Nell had a fight the last time they spoke, because he wants to know that his sister's okay. So
yeah,
I went about that for way longer than I planned to.
I wrote about Shirley a little bit, but
it's okay. I think the reason I was kind of conflicted is in the beginning, I feel like I really don't like Steve the most because, like, I obviously didn't see that scene that you were talking about, but he's okay. I just don't have, like, I guess out of all of them, he's just my least favorite in the beginning. Because I do like Shirley in the beginning in the sense that we get that really powerful, like, kind of flashback for her. Although she did creep me out as a kid with the kittens and stuff. I don't know what it is about her. The actress was great. It wasn't my thing.
She's a great actress.
It wasn't my thing. I'm sorry. But that part where it's like you fixed her with the guy, like the mortician and everything, the funeral director. I love that. I loved that part so much, and what she does, her trying to help families in the beginning. So I really related to that and really, really love that. And but yeah, I definitely think when it's the whole Kevin situation and Theo and all that, that's when I was kind of like, she was probably my least favorite at that moment. So yeah, I'm kind of torn. It's hard because I like them all, honestly. Like, I know
I do, and the acting is wonderful, and the kids are wonderful. And in the end, all I want is that family back together, including Shirley.
Yeah,
back together.
And that, I mean, it's a story of redemption and recovery. So every character is a redemptive character.
Shirley is your Natalie Portman.
I guess so. I really do. It's like every time I rewatch it, it boils over even more when we get to like those parts. But like I said, I do want her to reconcile in the end, and when she does, it's very cathartic.
What is funny about this, Christina, you saying that about how she's like the equivalent to Natalie Portman in this situation. So she was actually 100% my least favorite my first watch through, because I have this thing about Elizabeth Reeser, who's her actress, because I saw her on Grey's Anatomy way back. Early
wow.
And I hated that character so bad on Grey's Anatomy that I just had this like residual kind of like, I don't know. Like, I just seeing her face again.
There's something, and I can't figure it out because I've seen her in a couple of things. Like, she's in a couple other Mike Flanagan stuff that we've watched, but I can't tell if it's her trying to imitate her childhood actress self or the child imitating her, but something about the way she carries herself, and she does this little like dinosaur almost movement, and it just freaks me the hell out. And I'm like, I noticed it more this time. I'm like, okay, but the little kid's doing it too. So I'm like, and I know they studied each other. So it's like, is it the kid imitating you, or is it you imitating the kid? And if so, please don't ever do this again, because I can't
You'll notice it so much more in the episode where they come together in the funeral home that first night when she's talking to Steve. Like, it's so, I mean, having seen it multiple times, I'm now painfully aware. She's like, I changed all the light bulbs in the house.
Oh, okay. You say
crazy.
You just
it's crazy.
It's just, I don't know. It's a shoulder movement and a torso movement and an arm movement. And it just looks so awkward. Anyway, I'm sorry, Elizabeth Reeser. If you ever watch this, you're a wonderful actress. And
hey,
I think you did great on Hill House. I just think I just can't figure it out.
Yeah, Elizabeth Reeser, this was the best thing I ever saw you in, to be honest. Like, you were great in Twilight, too. I didn't hate you in Twilight. Hated you.
Oh, my gosh, she was in Twilight, wasn't
she? I didn't hate her in that, though.
No, I
didn't have any Anatomy days,
about her.
So I was, like, kind of okay with her. And then after, like, I could deal with her because she wasn't as big of a deal. In Twilight, she was there, but she wasn't, like, always there. But Grey's Anatomy just, hated that character. So... it's actually a compliment to her as an actress that I hated.
Yeah, I mean, if they're so good you hate them, that's good.
She did a great job. Hey, Morgan.
Hey, thanks for jumping in.
Yes, thanks for jumping in. Tim, did you say what your favorite quote was when we were talking about quotes?
I didn't. It wouldn't have changed the course of the conversation very much, though. So my favorite quote is actually not one directly from the show. It was the thing that sticks out to me most, that like every time I think about the show and quotes from the show, for some reason it springs right to mind, is the quote that Steve and his mom and ultimately Clara Dudley all shared together as kind of a guiding mantra. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt about in your philosophies. I kind of feel like next to most times a ghost is a wish, that's like the second most thematic quote from the show.
And it's actually from Hamlet.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's not from the show.
Yeah.
But it's something that's woven very carefully into the show.
They say it in the show, so it counts.
I didn't say this one because it wasn't written. I think it is directly from the Shirley Jackson novel, but I do love the silence lay steadily line that's like Steve reads from, like basically reads from his book. I think it's like silence lay steadily on the stones and bricks of Hill House, and those that walked there walked alone, or something like that.
Isn't it walk together? Is it walk together?
In the beginning, it's walked alone.
Is it alone at the end?
And then at the very end, the last words are those that walk there walk together. Now, I've looked it up. Those that walk there walked alone is the last words in the book by Shirley Jackson, and then they spun it more positively, obviously, for the end of the series, Walk Together. I love that, and I love hearing that actor say it, but because it wasn't written for the show, it was pulled directly from the book. I didn't pick it as one of my quotes, but I still love it.
I'm going to have to give one-word answers until we get to favorite episode, because then I have like a whole lot to say about favorite.
That is our next one. Actually, let me really quickly get this comment from April. She says, AKA John Walker, Wyatt Russell, so good you almost hate him. Well, I mean, Wyatt Russell, yes, he's a good actor, but I cannot compare Elizabeth Reeser and Shirley to John Walker. That to me is a stretch.
Shirley doesn't beat anyone to death, but
yeah, she was not great. But
well, verbally though,
I don't know. I'd say the feelings of like pure
blood money, Steve.
Blood
money
in my heart. Probably about the same, but different. Like, I'm disgusted by what John Walker does, and like what Shirley, does about her marriage. I'm just like, this is not what it's supposed to be. Like, no.
We should probably. I'm not sure how many people are watching, but I'm assuming that most of them haven't actually seen the show. If they're all people.
Oh, I guess Morgan has seen at least some of it. Or maybe she was talking about just Esme, because she asked me who we were talking about from Twilight. So maybe she was just knowing the Twilight.
Maybe.
But I do appreciate you guys coming, even though you guys didn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just going to fill in the gap that, like, we talk about Shirley as a not favorable character, and it's because she spends the whole show being hypocritical because she's actually cheated on her husband, and her greatest regret that keeps recurring as a ghost is the guy she cheated with, who you think is a genuine ghost, who's a dead guy, until you get to the end and she's confronted with her own problems.
Her ghost is regret.
Turns out her ghost is, walking around like a normal dude.
Ghost is also Nathan Scott from One Tree Hill. So for you One Tree Hill fans out there, honestly, I was thinking, dang, Elizabeth Reeser, you got you Nathan Scott. You did pretty good.
And that they said of him too that he was shooting something in the UK the entire time that this was being shot. So every time that you see him holding up a glass in the living room, the literal quote from the commentary, I think, is like, and there he is again, flying halfway around the world to stay here for 6 hours and hold up a glass.
Shot.
Then he flew back, and then he would fly back again.
Because they didn't edit him in. They filmed him sitting wherever he was. So he's in Hill House. He's in Shirley's house. He's in, wherever.
And all of this could have been avoided if Shirley had just fessed up.
No.
And then he wouldn't have had to burn all that time in the air.
Shirley.
No, I was kind of excited to see him. I love him. I was a big One Tree Hill fan. So I was like, oh, I know you. I always get excited when the actors.
It is fun.
It is. And I actually had a positive association with him, unlike Elizabeth
Reeser.
Poor Elizabeth Reeser. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next question. Actually, I'm going to do one more before we get to favorite episode because I just know that one's going to take us a minute. So this one is related to kind of what we were talking about, and that is favorite or best actor or actress from the series. Like, who did you enjoy watching the most? It's a very hard question because I know everyone was amazing, but who was it for you that you enjoyed watching the most because their acting was just
Victoria Pedretti.
Mine is the same, Victoria Pedretti.
This was her first job.
Really? I didn't know
that. They were about to offer the role of Nell to an established actress who came in for auditions, who'd been through all of the audition processes. They had an offer letter typed up and sitting on the printer that night when Mike Flanagan got a call from his casting agent who said, someone just sent in an audition tape. There is no experience. There is no resume, but you have to watch it. I guarantee you this is your Nell. And he watched it, and it was Victoria Pedretti. And the scene that she did was her car scene with Luke when he was shooting up.
The Luke in the car scene.
And I would kill to see that tape because I'm sure it's so good. But it was apparently so impressive that they called her in, and she had never been in LA before because she was new to acting. She'd never traveled anywhere. I think she was in New York at the time. But she flew into LA, and she was so nervous that Kate Siegel, who plays Theo, actually took her out shopping and gave her tips and showed her around town and everything.
Kate Siegel is married to the director Mike Flanagan, in case you didn't know that. Yeah. And she was pregnant in the last 3 episodes.
I'm shook.
Yeah,
I'm so.
It's all they're playing a family, but all of these actors they know each other very intimately because Mike Flanagan keeps a very tight circle of people.
A lot of them have worked together before,
which I will touch on when we get to favorite episode. But that Victoria Pedretti was new to the family, and they welcomed her with open arms, and she just did so well.
I just think her range of playing the sweet, loving Nell, her 5-7 minute love story with Arthur is just I'd watch a movie about the two of them. They're just wonderful. And I believe it. I believe they're in love, and I believe everything. And
double mind blown.
And then her, losing it, her depression, her, her acting. I remember, I don't know if I mentioned this before. I've had sleep paralysis before, and she's acting it's on point. I can't say enough great things about her, and I think she did a wonderful job. I do have one bonus person though to mention, and that's Violet McGraw, who plays Little Nell.
No, yeah,
fabulous. The way she's fantastic, and especially when she and Luke and Olivia are doing that scene in the bedroom where Olivia's she's hallucinating or future sighting or whatever, and Violet's
she has her own monologue.
she's doing her monologue where she's like, and we're going to die, and the darkness will take us, and I'm gonna, suffer and whatever. And she does it, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this kid's like 6.
And it's a single take, so like they don't cut away. She's doing it all from memory, and you're like,
yeah. So,
child.
I'd love to hear who your favorite actor or actress is from the series, Kaylee.
It's hard because there's so many. Like, I could be like this moment for this person and this moment for this person, because like talking about the kid actors, I really, like you said, I loved Little Nell. I loved her so much. She did a phenomenal job the entire time. And then, little Luke, the scene that we were talking about, it's like, I thought the house got you, and the emotion between those two and that moment.
Their twin chemistry was
oh my gosh, so good. And I thought Victoria Pedretti was amazing. My choice would have to be Kate Siegel. Is that how you say her last name?
Kate Siegel.
Siegel. Flanagan. Married to my Flanagan. But yeah, no, I kind of impartial, I guess, because I really love Theo so much, but they're all amazing. But she brings a lot of emotion and dynamic to it. I would say her and Nell as the adult actors are probably my 2 favorite. And then third would probably be Luke's adult actor. And then the kids are great, but I think the twin kids are the best in terms of the emotion that they have to bring, because they had to bring the most emotion. Like Luke getting dropped down into the crawl space. I mean, the emotion he had to bring to that for being that scared. So I think those are my top 5. Honestly, I can't really, like, they're all about the same for me because they're just all so good.
You should watch, Kaylee, on Netflix also a movie called Hush, which is also Mike Flanagan. It is all Kate Siegel all the time.
I know, but I don't really like horror.
It's not, but it's really not. It's very suspenseful.
Yeah, it's suspense, but it's not like,
it's not straight horror.
It's not ghosty and goblin-y.
One of the things that I like about it is the fact that this is slight spoiler, but not really. The killer is unmasked immediately. Yeah. Like probably about 10 minutes into the movie.
It's a survivor story.
And Kate Siegel plays like a blind, deaf and mute girl.
No,
sorry, not blind.
Deaf and mute.
Deaf and mute, who is an author who's struggling out in the wilderness, and her only neighbor is the woman who plays Lee in Hill House.
Okay.
And so they come up against an invader who I don't think is in Hill House, that actor, but he's.
If we watched it again, we might be like, oh, look, they are.
Yeah. But it's a survival story. It's basically her trying to fend him off for the night as he tries to find ways to get into her house. And she's at a severe disadvantage because she has no tactical training. She's obviously disabled. And it's really, really cool because she has to carry that film without speaking.
Yeah, I probably couldn't either. April, being real. And yes, Bly Manor is kind of hard.
It is. Yeah. Mike Flanagan refers to that as season 2, but it's an anthology series.
Different.
Yeah,
it's very different, but it has some of the same like actors playing different characters, and it's different. And this is what drew me in because I saw Bly Manor first. Actually, Bly Manor is more of like a gothic romance, than horror. It's not so much like Hill House, where it's not as intense in the sense of the horror aspect, which is what again drew me in because I saw it, and being the scaredy cat I am, I was like, oh, that wasn't bad. And then I saw Hill House, and I was like,
oh, that was horrible. Never again.
Way worse.
But fun fact, since we're talking about Lee and her also being in that movie, she also was in. Are y'all catching on fire?
No, the candle's just gonna eventually burn out.
Yeah, I've just been watching it.
But Lee was also on Grey's Anatomy. Also a character I hated on Grey's Anatomy. Fun fact.
I did not watch Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, she was. She was also a character. I actually hated her character more than I hated Elizabeth Reeser's character on Grey's Anatomy. But I liked Lee better in this. Like I kind of could get past it. But my first instinct when I saw her, I was like, no. I was like, oh, I don't like her. And I didn't like her as I hate saying this. I didn't like her as an actress on Grey's Anatomy. I thought she was just very like I hate saying the way her face was, but the the way she executed sometimes I was like, oh, I just don't. And I didn't like the character.
It's all right. I hate Benedict Cumberbatch's face.
It's okay. I liked her better as Lee. I've grown to love her after the 3 times I've seen this show. I actually really liked her this time. I was like, okay, first time struggle.
I did. I was paying attention a bit more, and I was like, wow, she really does care about the Crane family. She's just really hurt right now, and understandably so. So
it helped her that she played a really good character, that I really liked the character. So I kind of got past my Natalie Portman syndrome, as Christina brings up. Yeah. Honestly, this girl was more on the level of Natalie Portman for me. Like anything I saw her in, I was like, oh, because it was more the act, which Elizabeth Reeser too. It's just some of the thing, like the way they execute things sometimes. I'm like, oh, it's just not my fave. But we will move on to
Tomorrow I'm going to have a Natalie Portman marathon. I'm going to watch all 3 of the bad Star Wars.
Christina hates me because every time I'm on Instagram, I kid you not, I like see a picture of Natalie Portman. It just comes on my feed. And then I send it to Christina. I'm like, look, my favorite girl. It's like a cute little baby picture.
We're like, thought of you today. Here's a picture of Natalie.
Because I think of Christina every time, and it just pops up on my feed. It's probably going to pop up more because I keep saying.
I know. I was like, you keep saying Natalie Portman, and your phone's listening. So
all I'm going to have is a feed of Natalie Portman. But anyways, moving on to the question Tim has most been waiting for.
Everyone else should go first because I'm going to occupy a large quantity of this chat.
Okay, I'll go first, I guess, in this one because I haven't gone first on a lot of them, just because you guys are more put together with these. But my favorite episode, I feel like, is probably one of the more popular ones, and that's what it's like. Two Storm.
Yeah, that's ours too.
It's everyone's favorite. It's everyone's favorite. So I'll go ahead and tell my piece, and then we can go down the line. But I will say, I guess my second favorite, if we're going through, I think my second favorite would probably, I don't know, it'd probably be that. What episode is it? The next to last episode, I think, when it's like all kind of coming together. I just remember whatever episode it is. I think it's the next to last episode because it's when Hugh is like at the very end. Hugh's running into the Red Room.
Yeah, that scene.
Like all about. Like I like that. I like the last 2 episodes a lot. They were kind of up there. Like probably
Witness
2 and 3 for me.
Witness Marks is the third to last.
Witness Marks. Yeah, no, because that was the one that it was like, yeah, that would have to be my second favorite because I loved that Hugh and Steve in the car and talking about like the clock and the clock has witness. Is it Witness Marks?
Witness Marks.
Yeah, so I loved that. I loved all of that scene with them. And the ending was so powerful for me where we just saw Hugh run in and you're like, oh my gosh, it's about to go down.
It's a spine-chilling moment.
Oh.
Yeah. But going back to my actual favorite episode, which is the 2 Storms episode, I loved it probably for part of the same reason you guys loved it, for the shots being so darn long. And I just loved it, especially that part where Hugh comes in and he's like talking to the kids and then they pan around and then they're little and then he pans around and then they're big again. And I thought like it was such an awesome thing to watch. And I didn't even catch the first time I watched it. I didn't even catch how long they went without cutting. And then I had read something about it. I was like, oh, okay. And so like I went back and I rewatched it and I'm like, dang, like they really do. They go such a long time without cutting. And I did see a behind the scenes on YouTube that showed like how they filmed that and how they
watched it.
Oh, it was awesome. And kind of like, I don't know if he's the first person, probably not the first person to ever do it, but I mean, it's really cool and really innovative. And it really puts you in that moment. Like you're just like, oh, like it gets the suspense going a little bit more. And you're just like, they're not cutting away. It just makes it so much like you feel like you're there. And that episode too was a big one for me. Because it had some of the best lines. One of the lines that is one of my favorite lines is, I can't remember if it was Steve or Shirley. I want to say it was Shirley says something about Nell always tried to get us together. And Theo says back, well, someone should have told her she didn't have to try this hard.
Yeah.
I loved that quote. And then like the buttons getting put on Nell's eyes and all that stuff going on. And the Luke and Nell scene that we already talked about after, you know, she comes back and she appears again and he thought the house got her. And then the very ending, obviously, where she's there and we hear little Nell saying, I was there the whole time and no one can see me. That whole episode was just
so
good. So good. So my piece, I will move on. I know you guys have a lot more probably in depth than I do, but that's what I love about it.
I'll just say a little bit of my piece about it and then let Tim go because I know he's got a lot of things to say. As someone who's actually a filmmaker, I know he has a lot of appreciation for it. But yeah, the technical marvel that it is, the fact that there's like 14 minute, 17 minute, 8-minute shots that don't cut.
17 minute, 19 seconds.
17 minute. Yeah, it's just
no cut.
And the acting in it was so good. And just watching the commentary episode about it was eye-opening, just knowing like the amount of prep that went into doing that. Like the actors had to rehearse for weeks and weeks and weeks and know their blocking and know everything in order for everything to go off without a hitch. And the story of the family coming together to, ultimately, do a viewing for, this very key member of their family. And it's the first time they're all together. That scene that you mentioned, Kaylee, where Q walks into the door and it pans and all the kids are sitting there. That's also a scene I could have picked for most cry moment. It breaks me. But what I remember the first time I watched it and it did the kids and then I immediately went, oh God, no, because I knew that meant he was going to see the little baby Nell in the coffin and not his adult daughter. And when he did, I was like, no. Cry. And the story in the house, when they flip to the, past story of the storm and just the beautiful set of Hill House and you getting to see it from all different angles and the 360 and the acting from the kids. One of the, I will let Tim talk after this, but one of my favorite things that Flanagan mentioned in the commentary episode was the scene where Hugh and Olivia are up in the top of floor trying to find Nell. He's like, this was supposed to be shot as like an 8-minute ghost story in one shot. So it's a ghost story. It's them looking around, the boy with the wheelchair comes out. Hazel in the bed is
not the first time. I don't know how. I saw it and I was like,
and it's kind of funny because they're like, yeah, we had the kid comes out in his wheelchair and then like, and then we had to have, some backstage hand grab him and run him down the hallway in the wheelchair to get him out of the way for the next shot. Anyway, we could have a live about that episode probably. So I will let Tim go because he's been sitting there waiting to tell us why this is also his favorite episode.
I do want to say one thing real quick before Tim, because I know Tim, I don't want to interrupt you. I'm building suspense here. Building suspense for your conversation. I wanted to say while we're talking about favorite quotes, I forgot one of my favorite quotes ever in that episode. It's my favorite Steve quote. And it's where he's sniffing. He just came and sniffed. I'm sorry. I'm tired, if you can tell. Okay. It's when Steve and Luke go up to Nell and like are looking at her, and Steve's like, "That's her detective. Positive ID." And he just walks off.
He's like so like he can't even like take it. Like he's so distraught.
Yeah.
But
oh my
gosh, yeah. But I get that. That is a great line from Steve and the delivery of it.
Because he's so upset. So like it's a beautiful moment because you see that emotion, and then all of a sudden he's like, "That's her detective.
That's her positive ID." I think that there's probably because obviously, if something got messed up, they had to do the take over again. So I think that maybe, he had gotten to the point where maybe he had said it so many times and he was like, all right, that's it. This is the delivery this time. Take it away. Anyway.
Okay, Tim, go. We're ready. We're ready for it. I'll make you full. I'll make you.
No, I'm full. Okay.
Katie, move off screen.
All right. So this obviously most of this story came from the commentary, right? So I'm gonna tell a story that anyone with a Blu-ray player can ultimately see themselves. So I'm gonna condense it quite a bit, but I'm like I'm like a compressed spring at this point that like I got just so much to tell I could just explode through the screen and tell everyone. All right. So Mike Flanagan is one of my favorite directors of all time. And really that started not with Hill House, but with things that came before Hill House that I didn't know were his until I started connecting the dots backwards from Hill House. So previously, he's done quite a few horror films. Oculus is a big, well-known one. He did the second Ouija film, and it was technically a prequel, so Ouija Origin of Evil. And he did several indie films that did quite well at film festivals, which is how he got into the business. Then he did Hill House, and that's where he really became a household name. And Hush. So previously, leading into Hill House, the most technologically advanced, what he would consider to be probably his masterpiece was Oculus. And in Oculus, there was a lot of like people running into shots and being there for 5 minutes and then people running out of shots, and it was really unsettling. So apparently before he came in to pitch Hill House to the networks and ultimately to Netflix and Paramount and Amblin, he rewatched the episode, Kaylee, I'm sure you've seen because you're a Buffy fan, The Body from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is when Buffy's mom dies.
Oh.
Great.
So
not prepared.
That scene, that whole episode rocked him so to the extent where he was watching that episode. There's no music that entire episode long. It's supposed to be the devastating impact of grief upon the entire story. So he was watching that and he was thinking to himself as he went on to tell everyone else, that really hit me as a distorted perception of reality due to grief. And I really wanted to replicate that. So part of coming in and pitching the show, before they even had so much as like the final episodes written, before they knew truly how this story was going to end, they knew that what they wanted to do was to have an episode that was all about concentrated grief distorting reality. And so the way they decided to do that, or the way they pitched doing that, was we're going to do flowing takes as long as we possibly can. We're going to avoid using any music up until a certain point in the episode, at which point we'll, jump back to reality. But I really want this to feel like an echo chamber where things aren't quite right and you can tell that something is very badly off and you have to live with that discomfort the entire episode. So having that all on paper when he went in, of course the networks agreed to it. They said, that sounds really cool. He had no idea how complicated that was going to be. Nobody did. So he gets on to the set. He realizes as the script is being written, he's going to have to write in the actual camera directions, which is not something that you normally do for scripts. Usually you leave the actors to figure out the blocking. You leave the cinematographer to figure out where lights go. Entire sets had to be built right next to each other. The Hill House set and the funeral home set had to be built with a connecting chamber, had to be built in such a way that you could block these actors out and turn the camera exactly as you needed to and have them walk back and forth and keep consistent lighting. All of that had to be written into the script and then built specifically for this episode. And the rest of the show would have to work around that. So we're talking, like Flanagan said, he had timed lights in the ceiling of the funeral home that are just off screen in every shot, where as they're walking forward to Nell's casket, you have lights that are going up, up, down, down, up, up, down, down, and keeping them all in consistent light, which as a filmmaker, someone who went to school for this, I should have recognized how difficult that would be to keep them in consistent light. But the episode draws you in so well that you don't really take stock. Like Kaylee, you said, you don't notice until almost the whole episode has gone by how long these takes are. So they did every one of these takes. I'm going to cut out a lot of the story. They did every one of these takes several times over, always having someone drop a line or a camera move.
Out of place.
Camera move was too slow. any number of reasons why, you know, you make it 9/10 of the way through and then you have to drop it and start over again. Well, they had put some flooring into the funeral home set, a type of carpeting that they thought would be easier for them to move through without leaving tracks from the dolly that they were going to have to use for the camera. And they didn't know until it was long too late that the type of carpet they used, are you about to sneeze?
I think so.
That the type of carpet that they were using was actually coming up off the carpet, like little flurries of the carpet were getting caught up in the wheels of the dolly and being pushed up towards the dolly's transmission chain, which is what allows the dolly to move without, you know, the dolly operator having to go with like a 200-pound piece of machinery. So the longer the takes went on, the more takes they did, the harder the dolly became to move. And it wasn't until lunch break, after they failed to get this take, I think he said somewhere between 7 and 9 times of this 17-minute shot. They haven't been able to do it yet. And suddenly the grips come to him during lunch and say, Mike, this chain is going to break. There was a problem with the carpet. The chain is covered in dust. It's been weakened to the point where we don't know how many more turns we're going to get before it snaps. There's no replacement dolly. If it snaps, we're done. We can't do this shot. And so Mike had, you know, as you would as director with all this on your plate, a mild little panic attack, went to lunch, came back, and while he was at lunch, he decided, I don't want to tell the actors about this because they're already stressed enough. They're tired. They're frustrated. I don't want this in their heads that they have to do it perfectly or it's going to mess them up. So he came back and he said, I feel really good about this take. Let's roll it. This is going to be the one. And it was the one for a number of reasons that you really, really, truly have to watch the episode. He does like a second-by-second breakdown of what's happening on screen and how well the energy builds and how well the camera moves in this one take that they got. This one clean take that they got wound up being the only clean take that they got. And they're all like, the production crew is standing backstage like, God, please don't mess up. Please don't mess up. Every second counts. And they made it all the way through that take. The actors one by one leave frame and they know they're done with the shot, so they collapse backstage and someone is telling them backstage, so just so you know, you did it because the dolly's about to break, and they're having like their own little collapse meltdowns. Finally, they hit that end mark. The scene ends. They cut. And there's so much celebration, so much cheering. And then Mike comes and takes a look at the dolly. Looks like it's still okay. They start to wheel it off. Chain breaks. So we're talking, I mean, Mike said we were one wheel turn away from the chain snapping and the whole production falling into catastrophe. We could not have possibly cut that any closer. If they had messed up a single line, if they had dropped a single thing that they weren't supposed to drop, picked up something they weren't supposed to pick up, if someone didn't get in and out on time, if a light hadn't worked, it was like the most miraculous take in American film history. It will never be replicated.
And we'll never do it again.
Yeah, Mike Flanagan said that was the most stressful 17 minutes of my entire life. I grazed half my head on this one take. And they will never try anything like it again. And now that in contrast to Oculus, which was previously what Mike considered to be his masterpiece, now he says this was a technological feat that will never be topped.
He's called it his Everest.
Yes.
And his, what was it? The juggernaut. He called it a juggernaut too. But
that he and his cinematographer have been working together for a very long time on most of the films that he does. He works with the same actors too, as you'll notice if you go back and watch anything Mike Flanagan. You'll notice Shirley, young and old, has a part in Ouija. Kate Siegel has a part in almost everything
because they're married.
Clara Dudley is in Before I Wake, another film that Mike Flanagan did. But he pulled all of his resources together. They all sat down and they decided they could do this thing. And they came so close to not doing it. And now every time I watch that episode, I'm going to be so in awe of what they were able to do simply by the power of positive thinking.
I definitely want to check out that behind the scenes stuff that you found, Kaylee, because I did. That's it may be on our DVDs or Blu-rays somewhere, but I want to see them do it. It just,
Well, probably it might have been on there. I know they were like showing like how it was set up. They showed the shot where they were running down the steps, and they showed like how they had an elevator built.
Yeah,
take it down so they could get that whole like shot.
Yeah, I cut that piece out at the time, but that was something that they had to do because they kept dropping the shot trying to follow him down the stairs, and even the elevator was moving so slow in some takes that they had to abort halfway through that shot most of the time.
Yeah, and they showed the part where the little boy with the wheelchair, they had this guy run up behind him and go,
I gotta see that.
yeah, and he like has to hold his hands up, I guess, so his little hands don't get caught in the wheels. So he's going like, but yeah, it was cool. It didn't go as in depth as Tim did, which that was a great moment. I had to mute myself and take my dog out because he was I have to go. So I was like, okay.
He's like,
I could hold down the fort for a second. And I like was rushing, and then I came back and I was like, oh, Tim's still talking for good.
I think I was going to be a minute. You're fine. I could have.
I texted you
friends from Two Tickets to Adventure.
We have some of Hill House fans.
Yeah, Kat.
Awesome.
Kat said she was a fan of both Haunting of Hill House and Haunting of Bly Manor, which I have a little part coming up towards the very end where we're going to talk a little bit about Hill House and Bly Manor and kind of how they connect a little bit. Yeah, and Christina said that's amazing. She's going to watch with more appreciation. Yeah, it is like, even without knowing all of what Tim said, like you just watch that episode and it's such like, you're just like, man, I haven't, like for me, I was like, I haven't seen this before. I haven't seen them do such long takes, and it does add something definitely to it. And I mean, especially with him never doing it again. That was a great scene, and all that stuff about the dolly. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. All right. So we all had the same favorite episode. Now, this next one it's kind of an odd question, and it's a bit controversial question probably. Least favorite episode, which is hard. I feel like they were all such good episodes, but out of all of them, if you had to pick which one was your least favorite child of the episodes that we were presented with, we'll go ahead and start with Katie. Who do you
it's probably the same.
2, 3. Open casket.
It's the Shirley episode. It's a little bit, it feels slower to me than the other ones. Everyone's heard me say I don't like Shirley as much as the other kids. I still like her as a Crane. I have to, because I love the Crane family. The cats creep me out. They're very little, I love cats, but those little sick kittens are super creepy. And the one that opens its mouth at the bug, although that's a great callback to, or foreshadowing of, something that she sees later. The sick cat with the eyes. Oh, but this episode, I mean, if there was going to be a least favorite episode of this very excellent series, it would be Shirley's episode for me.
I'm glad it was episode 2 also, because at that point you don't really know what you're in for. You know that the first episode really left you with this massive cliffhanger, and you're so shook that you have to continue watching no matter what. But Shirley's is a good episode. Like, when I first watched the show, knowing absolutely nothing, not even really knowing that it was based on Shirley Jackson's Hill House book, which I should have, but I'm an idiot. So watching episode 1 and being like, I have to continue. And then episode 2, I'm like, I can go to bed. I'll watch the rest tomorrow. I'm still interested. I'll watch the rest tomorrow, but I can go to bed here. Like, it's a nice neutral episode. But pacing wise, the story of the cats, which I understand, from a long haul perspective, that's Shirley's first brush with death. It's going to matter very much as the story goes on, because she's going to have to face that with her mom, and then it becomes her career and she has to face it every day. And it kind of creates this irony as well, or maybe a counterbalance, that her ghost is
I'll say that. Hang on. Oh, continue.
Or that it is alive, not even dead. But the cats as a story were the only story that didn't really land as like give you the emotional punch that the other stories did. I don't think Shirley really and truly suffered the way that the other kids suffered. Like, she just had a cat that was sick, and then another cat that was sick, and then another cat that was sick. And, you know, ultimately she realizes, I can't save or protect these kitties. Death is a part of life. Maybe I'll embrace death as part of my life. And okay, that's a nice long-term transition. But as a story, watching it is not particularly interesting. It's like watching grass grow.
I would have to say that was also my least favorite episode. Mostly for what y'all said. It was the only part of that episode that I very strongly loved was that ending scene. I believe it was the ending scene where he said, "You fixed her," or she said, "You fixed her."
Yeah.
Was that towards the end?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but that was my favorite. I mean, that's one of my favorite Shirley moments. That I thought was real powerful. So I have 2 comments I'm going to get to. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted, but I will say the cats I have to skip every time. It creeps me out. I cannot watch that part. So I guess in the sense of like, there's some like scary parts in Shirley's, and it adds some like creepy to it, especially with the bug coming out of the kitten's mouth, but it's just not my thing. But really quickly, I'm going to get to Kat's comment, but I want to go ahead and talk about this comment since it's about this episode. It says, speaking of that episode, did anyone catch the Disney Easter egg?
There's a Disney Easter egg?
I can't think of one. So let us know in the comment down below what Easter egg you're
Please
talking
elaborate. I missed that.
But while you're typing that, we're going to go to Kat. Kat said she went to college with Mike Flanagan. He was 2 years under her. She never met him, but she knows friends that knew him.
That's cool.
So, Kat, we're going to talk after this, and if you have his email,
talk to the friends that were friends with him and get the
we've made a horror movie, so that I probably should have started with this. Like, Katie and I have been behind the camera and in front of the camera in many regards for a horror movie that wasn't nearly as good. We know it's by comparison awful, but we know how much like goes into this, how ridiculous everything looks on set, how much of a lift it is for the cast to keep going. You really can't shoot during the day most of the time because that's not a horror movie.
You have to fake the lighting of nighttime.
Right. You have to push through long nights. You got to work with people who get tired and frustrated, and really, I mean, it's hard to maintain faith in a project for a long time. This was a 10-hour movie. Yeah. And Mike Flanagan, I mean, this
took months.
This is really and truly like his masterpiece.
Yeah.
I don't think it can be topped.
No. I do like what Mike Flanagan had to say about like he says that like, you know, some people consider this series to be a horror series, some people whatever, and he's like, I think it's a story about family. And to me it's like beyond like the horror aspects, it's a love story. It's a story about family, and it's a story that I think so many people can relate to. Because I can't imagine being an adult or a teenager and not having known someone who has gone through addiction, or, you know, maybe known someone who died by suicide, or known someone who has mental illness, or someone just died. Like, you just experienced grief, even if it's just, you know, your pet dying, or, you know, someone you didn't really know that. But just so much relatable things happen in this show, and it's so much more than a horror story. That was just like a vehicle.
It's a vehicle.
But I do like what he said about like when he's like, some of the scariest moments that, you know, are so scary just look so ridiculous, and we laughed at each other because we know how ridiculous it was to make things scary sometimes for our little silly scary movie. And talks about like, people in makeup in weird positions, and when you're watching it and on the screen it looks so scary, but in real life it looks so silly and stupid.
Apparently the tall man like behind him, you never see him from behind obviously, except when they want you to, but in the shots where he's just facing full directly in front of you, apparently there's like a big scooter behind him where someone's like tucked in real close, like
rolling him around on a scooter. Like, it's just so funny like that. But anyway, Yeah, I could talk about this for a long time.
Come back next week and we'll be watching and reacting to Tim and Katie's horror.
My God, that would be fun.
That would be. I love it.
It's on Amazon.
Okay, the Disney Easter egg was Duffy Bear was sitting on
No way!
Oh my gosh.
That's
all right. Well,
cool.
we're gonna go,
Number 5.
We'll have to go back and we watch Open Casket and look for it. That's a great Easter egg. Thank you guys.
I'm like Kat though. Kat says I don't like horror, but him and M. Night Shyamalan are amazing storytellers that bring in suspense and a little terror. I like Tim and Katie were saying, I'm not a horror fan, but this series, well, I made myself watch it after Bly Manor because I just had to, and I'd heard it was better than Bly Manor. So I was like, okay, I'll watch it. But really what got me through is the storylines being so like personal and the depth and the family, like it really being about family. And I thought it was a very beautiful story, you know, past the horror. Like the horror was an aspect of it, but like the horror movies that are just scary and that's like the plot is they're scary, you know, that's not my thing. But I did love this because it had that deepness to it.
Mm-hmm. He did mention that he tried to do very little. He was like, I'm using very little jump scares. Like those are cheap. And I did.
There is the one with Nell in the car.
That was the best jump scare. I had that as a question. And then I was like, why am I even asking this question? Because we all know which is the best jump scare. But we just do. I was like, I can't even think of another one. Because I was like, oh, they're going to say that one. So let me try to think of another one. I was like, really? That one's like it. I mean, I guess like the ones with the the crawl space one. I mean, that kind of a scare, like in Olivia coming around.
There's very few in the show, and when they are used, they're the one I think about. The next one I think about when Nell's at the vending machine and she turns around and Bent Neck Lady drops down right in front of her. That's a jump scare. That gets me every time too, but still not as bad as the one in the car.
The car was unscripted also, specifically because Mike Flanagan wanted to scare
Elizabeth and Katie.
Yeah.
Or Kate.
They did not know she was popping out.
Yeah.
He had Nell hid in the back seat in full makeup and just had her lean forward and scream.
I think they knew she was going to jump out, but they thought it was going to be at a different line. And he was like, no, I want you to jump out like 2 minutes before they're ready for it. And that's why they're like, oh my God.
I know I had seen somewhere, and I don't know if it was Mike Flanagan that said this, but they were talking about how that was such a powerful scare because it was in the middle, like it was in the middle of dialogue. It was just like, not even when there was like no real build up to it. It was just like, bam, we're going to put a scare, like we're going to do it then. And it was great too, because there wasn't a lot of jump scares in this. So it wasn't something you were really expecting, because that's not really the kind of vibe this show put out. And it was like so close to the end of the show. So it was awesome. Like honestly, one of the best scare moments, I think, overall, other than, to me, I think the worst moment for me was Abigail choke. I cannot. Abigail getting poisoned. That one, I did watch it this last time, but my second watch through, I had to skip it because I was like, I cannot do it. It just was so bad.
I do appreciate that for the most part. There's very little like gore and stuff in the show. Like there's very few little things, but that one's definitely very like graphic. I don't like, I have to close my eyes every time Hugh sticks his hand in the fan. I don't like that part.
Yeah.
I don't really show
you don't even see that.
But it's just the sound.
Yeah.
Just the sound and like the knowing that he sticks his hand in the fan. I don't like that one. And then the only other I would say like grotesque thing is the runny A guys, which Mike Flanagan also pointed out that he was like, I really don't like this effect. We didn't have time for it. We didn't have the budget for it. And I think it looks so cheap. And then we watched it this time and we're like, oh yeah, it does kind of look kind of silly, doesn't it? Because it used to freak me out. And now I'm like, oh yeah, this kind of.
He was really putting that scene down in the commentary. He literally said, so unfortunately we're coming up on my least favorite moment of the entire series. Least favorite moment
of the whole show.
Basically what happened was we ran out of money. And we couldn't get it practically to work. And by the time we figured out something that might work, we were out of time. And so we had to do it digitally, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But
it still scares me.
It's still scary.
It's just, I don't like it. But, and eyes are kind of, I have this thing about eyes too, when it comes to horror. It freaks me out. Kat, though, she says she now calls her attic the rotting stomach of the house. Okay, so I had 2 more questions and then one really quick little like kind of trivia thing. I did not tell Tim and Katie about this. It's not really a trivia. It's just for fun. But the 2 questions real quick at the end. One of them y'all don't know because I didn't tell you about this question either. So this one is one you do know. This one was actually, I think, Tim's idea, and that is best monologue. So I will let Tim start with this one since it was his question idea. Wait, and while you're thinking, Christina says, what episode did Abigail get poisoned?
9.
It was the last episode? Next to last episode?
I think
it was 9 because in 10 they're at the house, and the entire episode of 9. Sorry, the entire episode 9 takes place in the past, and the entire episode 10 takes place in the future, in the present.
Yeah. It's been like 2 weeks.
It's in the red room.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's
the tea party.
It's the spiritual finale, episode 9. But it's.
Have you seen all? Please tell me you've seen all this, Christina.
She did. I think.
Okay, I feel like you did. I knew you were close, but it was towards the end. She's the girl. She's Luke's,
the Dudley's daughter.
Yeah, the little girl that like gets poisoned by Olivia, and it
blonde hair.
freaks me out so bad. That's my least favorite moment. But go ahead, Tim.
So there are a million best monologues in the show. Like truly, every single monologue in the show draws you in. The kids' monologues. Mr. Dudley's monologue was like one of my top choices. The story of his first child and the house that makes people scattered. I settled on Theo, what I call her my day speech, when she's going through the throttles of really what actual depression feels like, which is just a vacancy of feeling, an empty, hollow sensation. And she's trying to make a connection with Trish.
Mm-hmm.
Trish.
Her name is Trish.
She's trying to explain to Trish what her day has been like, and she just unloads all the emotional baggage she's been carrying around, but really carefully steps over the specific things that she doesn't want to share, that she doesn't want to ever let herself expose. Things like how she messed up her own relationship with with Nell. But without saying, and now Nell's dead. It's not that the words that she used necessarily were so powerful. It's just that it's such a convincing, grieving performance from Kate Siegel. And yet in the moment, you know that her character is not feeling anything, but it's like that desperate clinging. You can hear it in her voice, the desperation trying to cling to wanting to feel, just clawing and trying to grab at any feeling, any sensation that she can, and being a little bit broken for not being able to feel anything while still having to try and mentally choose her words carefully. I just think as I said, every monologue in the show is great, and Theo has arguably an even better monologue outside of the car after Nell pops up and she unloads on Shirley of everything that's been going on with her. But this monologue, I think, just grabbed me from the perspective of like all the emotion in that moment. And it really makes you care about Theo much more as a character, having her unload all of that on Trish, who is a complete stranger to her, really. Because there's some things you can only tell a stranger.
My favorite would probably be, I have 2, and one's kind of weird, but my first favorite would be the second Theo speech you were talking about, where she's just talking about she couldn't feel, but she's like, I'm so glad I did it because it worked and she can feel again. And that just beautiful. That was a beautiful, beautiful monologue. And that one is tied with this other one. And it's kind of a dual, like, I guess you can't really call it a monologue because it's not one person, but I loved the scene where it was Luke and Nell, like young Luke and Nell, just telling Olivia all the stuff that was going to happen to them. And she's like, well, what if this like, what if, that whole scene, that's like her nightmare scene. That was another great one, just because they're so young and they're just delivering it so powerfully. I kind of counted that as like one of my favorite, but I guess my official answer would be Theo, because that one's a technically a monologue, but
I see that as two simultaneous monologues.
Yeah, I mean, it goes together, but that one was just so powerful, like Katie had said earlier, because they're so young and they're just delivering it so well. So that one was great. What about you, Katie?
So I could probably talk about any of the monologues. They're all great. My honorable mention monologue is actually I cannot remember her name, but she's, the grieving widow at the beginning when she's telling her the story of her husband. And Flanagan, one of what Mike Flanagan wanted to do with this show was he's like, you'll notice one of the kind of themes of the show is just
long shots,
long shots and people telling ghost stories. And it's supposed to be kind of give you that feeling of telling a ghost story around a campfire. Someone is holding a flashlight to their face and they're just monologuing a ghost story. So I think that actress is fantastic. I think about her, the way she says, like, you see something that horrible and you don't scream, you just stare and you can't scream. That's my honorable mention monologue, because I don't think she really gets enough praise for how great she is in that very small role. I picked my favorite as actually Mr. Dudley's monologue about the house and about feeling scattered and the story of his firstborn and, losing that baby ultimately, and why, he and his wife, they don't go in the house anymore. And it is another one of those, this is a ghost story monologue. And I just think it's wonderful. And I think that I just love looking at that actor's face while he's talking. I just want to I want to give him like a hug by the end of it. Cause he just seems like such a sweet and sincere man. And all he's doing is like, look, it may not be my place, but let me tell you, I just want to help, in the end. And I really wasn't sure how I felt about the Dudleys the first time I watched it. And then by the end I was like, okay, they're not bad people at all. But at first they're a little unsettling. But anyway, that was my favorite, but I think I absolutely hand it to Kate Siegel with both of her monologues that you guys love. I think she's fantastic in those as well.
Well, also one too that we didn't mention, but Nell's ending monologue was a good one.
I almost picked that one too.
It was a good one. It was good. I enjoy it. Still confused the crap out of me for a very long time, and it still slightly does, but it was good, especially, the quote that I always say about, I loved you all completely and y'all loved me the same and the rest is confetti. I mean, that it's a beautiful monologue. And I think it was a great addition for her character to really let that character shine in the last episode. It
is kind of nice that everyone gets to kind of do say their goodbyes to Nell because they couldn't. And, so every single one of them, parted ways with her how they wouldn't have wanted to. So and then they get that moment and she gets to tell them, I'm okay. And you guys are going to be okay too.
Yes. And Christina,
you need to rewatch it, Kat. It's my absolute favorite, probably one of my favorite things to rewatch ever, because there's always something.
Yeah.
I've only found 13 ghosts. I know there's more.
We got to keep watching.
I know there are.
I rewatched it like 2 or 3 weeks ago in preparation for this live. And that was my third time. And I still wanted to do a fourth time before we did this live, because I knew I was going to be scattered, as Mr. Dudley said. But I didn't have time to do that. So Christina asked, was she Abigail getting poisoned at the tea party, and did we get a reason why Liv did it? So she wanted to wake them up. Like, she didn't specifically want to wake Abigail up, I don't thing. Abigail was just there.
Abigail was collateral damage.
She was just there. She was with the twins, and she was like, "Cool, just come along. We'll bring your friend." But
this is something that rewatches helped me understand better, because I was confused by the end, like the Olivia that we're seeing, how much of that is actually their mom and how much of it is the house influencing her.
Liv is the most susceptible and most vulnerable person in the house, because she is so overwhelmingly sensitive as compared to her kids and her husband in particular, that the house just latches onto her instantly and starts feeding on her the moment she walks in and just keeps going at it. And basically the delusion that she's under by the time she goes and actually, tries and successfully poisons one kid, but manages not to poison her own, is that the kids are going to be killed in horrible, awful ways, or worse, a living death of just walking around empty, hollow shells of their former selves, because the world, quote, has teeth, if you go back to listening to what Clara had to say. So what she's doing in her own mind is saving them by keeping them young and crystallized in the cocoon of the house.
And innocent
in their form.
Safe.
Like, as baby Luke and Nell, that were blameless and totally influenceable. Influenceable? Yeah. Is that a word?
Yes.
And there is that one tragic moment when, after Hugh has left and she runs back to the room and she sees Abigail on the floor, and she's just overwhelmed by what she's done. And that moment of clarity is the last clarity that you ever see from Liv.
Yep.
Because the second later she sees Abigail as a ghost, and then it's so easy at that point to sink back into the delusion of, oh no, I was right all along. The house is the saving grace. Okay, no, this is fine. Dead body there. Let's go follow the live ghost girl.
Yeah. She's like, "Are you awake?" And that confused the first time watching this, the whole last two episodes, I was just like, what? Because I had like, I don't know, I have mixed feelings on Liv. It's very hard for me to, I don't know. I like Liv, and then I am like, oh, the house's influence. And then like even Liv in the last episode, I had a lot of trouble. Like, I just didn't enjoy the character. Like, I mean, I enjoyed the character. It was a good addition. I just didn't like, I was like, oh, I can't really like Liv, which, it's sad because I know a lot of it's the house's influence, and Poppy. I blame Poppy for everything. That stupid, talking about least favorite monologue, the screaming memes. I hate that one. It's so good.
It's so bad.
I just don't like it. I just don't. But yeah, she was Christina, she was under the delusion from Poppy that she had to like wake her children up. And so she was going to poison them to wake them up. And she thought they were going to be awake after she killed Abigail, because she saw Abigail come back. And that's why the Dudleys didn't want the house burnt down, because like when you die in the house, you are there. Like
you live forever in the house.
It's a forever house.
Oh,
it's so
God,
forever.
I never made that connection until just this
forever
morning.
House. So.
Oh my God.
I concur, Kat. I concur.
Young.
That Poppy. That Poppy. I read this thing online. It was talking about Poppy and what is the old lady's name? What's her name? Hazel, yeah. It was talking about so Hazel is William, aka the tall guy's sister, and then Poppy was William's wife. And there was something, so like Hazel had her daughter that was the Cup of Stars. Jacqueline, because it was Jacqueline's Cup of Stars. And so Hazel had her daughter, and then Poppy and William had their two kids. And there was something that I think I actually I don't know. It was, I remember what it was. They wrote stories about the ghosts or something. There's like a book that has all the stories about the ghosts. And there was something about like Hazel and Poppy like hated each other. And Hazel thought her daughter died because of Poppy, and Poppy thought her children died because of Hazel, or something like that is the vibe I got from when I read that. It was just craziness. And so then we have that scene where Hazel's like laying in the bed and she tells Olivia, she's like, don't trust that one because she lies. And they have like this like little.
I don't know why I love that dialogue so much. She lies.
I know. And then Olivia's like, she's like, what can I help you with, dear? And Olivia's like, I need to wake up. And that I did feel bad for Olivia. I was like, she's so confused. So confused.
I think
I was confused.
Remind myself, like, or I don't really remind myself, but I do have to remember that Olivia never, outside of Hill House, never would have even considered killing her children to keep them, like, never. And I think our biggest like clue and reminder into that is when probably one of the, I mean, there's so many sad moments, but one of the most sad moments when they show the family coming into the house for the first time. And this is the only time you ever see Olivia not touched by the house in some way. Because every time you see her after that, they've been at the house for some time. And it's already working on her. It's already messing her up. And they walk in and Olivia's wearing the cutest like overall something outfit. And
jean shorts.
Or the jean shorts. She just looks so cute. And the kids all have this energy. And, you know, you see her untouched by the house for the first time. And you're like, that mom would never kill her kids. Like, come on. Like she would never do that. And then the saddest thing is when, you know, she says, oh, you guys go on without me. And then Hugh turns around and says, how could we? And then it just cuts you right there. But yeah.
The first time I watched that scene, it was 3:00 in the morning. It was my third episode that I had binged. And I just lost it. Like at that line, I was like, I couldn't even start another episode because I was blinded by my own tears. That was it. I mean, it hits so hard when you realize how tragic Liv's life was.
Yeah, Kat said Liv's life was her family and Poppy's was control and manipulation. And she'd also said the house seems to bring out like the truth in the person. I had read somewhere something about it was, and I want to say Mike Flanagan did say this, but it was talking about like the house feeds off the energy of like the people in it some too.
Yeah.
And so Poppy and William were like insane.
Yes.
And so that made the house
insane.
So, but I was going to go to your point, Katie, and say, you know, you're talking about Olivia would never do that, like before she was touched by the house. And there was one scene that like was really proof to me that she wouldn't have done it. And that was, she said this line, it was something like, I used to think that my job was to get them ready to like go off in the world and go do their own thing. And like, then she's like, but now I'm thinking different about that. So like, I just think she wasn't the type of person that wanted to really control and keep her kids in before they got to the house. She wanted to like to get them where they could go out of the nest. And then, you know,
and I think the house there, I think there was some element of like, you know, I mean, mothers say this. I'm not a mother myself, but you hear moms say like, "Oh, I wish I could keep them like, you know, this way forever," you know, as a baby. And there is that moment where she's got the twins lying on her, and she's like, "Oh, can't we just keep them like this forever?" Stephen, Shirley are so big now, and so I think like, and those I think are normal thoughts a mom could have, but the house like takes that and goes, oh, but you can keep them like this forever. And that the scene that at the end in the last episode when Hugh is confronting Olivia and they're, you know, Mike Flanagan kind of described that as like a marriage scene or almost a romantic scene where they're both where Hugh's like
peek into a private moment.
Yeah, a private moment of so much marriage. And they're like, Hugh's, you know, reiterating, we're not, you know, our job is not to, you know, cage them. It's to, you know, do the best we can and then let them out into the world. And Olivia's kind of like almost more herself than she's ever been in the entire series. And she's like, oh, and she's, you know, saying, but why? The world is bad and it's going to eat them alive and all that. And, you know, and they, in the end, you know, she's like, okay, I'll let them go, but I don't want to be lonely anymore. And, you know, ultimately Hugh decides to stay there with her. What I don't know. It is very, Olivia is probably the most her storyline is probably the most confusing, and it definitely gets clearer the more you watch it and the more you see just how bad the house was influencing her from the start. Like it says like this is night 1 and she's already like having
can't sleep.
headaches and nightmares and stuff. So
yeah, she still always really creeps me out when they're like leaving and she just like I think it's Steve's leaving because Hugh had brought him back into the house and he like kind of learned what really happened that night. And then Hugh goes to join Nell and Olivia. And then like as Steve's leaving, Olivia's just looking at him and it just creeps me every time I see it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like I have mixed feelings on Olivia, but definitely a lot of it's the house, but it's such a sad story. Like to have, like you had that happy ending, but then you don't have Hugh and you don't have Nell and you don't have Olivia.
Honestly, it was a happier ending than I thought it was going to be because I thought for sure Luke was going to die, and they actually had written a version where Luke did die, and they were like, "Nope, we can't. We need him back." I thought, and I was like, I was like, is it just so much to ask that they're just like together at the end? Like, is that so much to ask that they can just be a family again for the first time in like 20 something years? I don't know, but the ending is, I know the ending of the book isn't all that happy or anything like that. And it's not meant to be.
No, the book is straight horror.
It's a ghost story. It's a horror story, but this story was the family story.
It was her.
Yes. And that's what's like, I think Steven sees her and he's like, Mom's okay, so why aren't we bringing her out?
Yes. She had poisoned Abigail, and the twins were in there, and they had their tea, and then Hugh had come in, and he pushes her against the wall and knocks her out, and then he grabs the twins, and then I think it's Shirley, I think it's Theo, because Theo starts screaming because then she saw what happened. But yeah, so Steve's the last one out, and then Olivia's woken up by this point, and she's like chasing them, but she's hurt, and then you kind of see all different points of view of it, because you see Steve in the first episode, he sees her in the window, and then you see in Hugh finding her in another episode, and then you see Olivia like seeing them in the car and seeing them go away, which I also love that about this series. You get like different pieces
perspectives
of view. He was very tortured. Another scene with him that was very sad was when Steve picks him up and he's like, I feel like I'm in withdrawal, but I'm not withdrawal. And it's like all the same symptoms of like a dead body.
Which you really don't realize until that last, like when he's like, I'm so cold and stiff. And when he's like stiff, that's when you're like,
Steve, I do appreciate Steve in that moment where he's like, where he sees his brother and he knows he's like, I'm about to tell him something, and it makes sense that he feels this way.
I don't know. See, like Christina, I tell you, the first time you watch it, it is like you're watching a different show. There's so much going on. And
seems like a rewatch is in order.
It takes a few times, because even like, I swear, like after watching it 3 times, there's still stuff I'm like, oh, I missed that, and oh, I missed that, because you're looking at different things, I guess, like, and there's just so much going on. It's definitely a good show to rewatch. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to do really quick that is fun. I had another question. It was basically about Olivia, so we kind of already went there. But this one is, you guys saw Blind Manor, right? Y'all saw both. Okay, so
seen it once though.
Y'all seen it once. Okay, it's gonna be even harder. So I have a list here of some of the parallels between Bly Manor and Haunting of Hill House. And this doesn't include like the characters reappearing. This is like lines that were said that were similar and mirrored what happened at Hill House. Can y'all think of anything that happened in Bly Manor? And I'll tell y'all at the end the ones, because y'all are going to love it. But
right, so you want us to give you the parallel.
Go ahead and let me know if you can think of any before I tell you guys.
I mean, the obvious one is, well, number one, the twist is that Hannah is already dead, has been dead for a long time, has been a ghost floating around, and has been part of the sitting around the dinner table, but is scattered. So she doesn't remember that she's dead. And until she remembers that she's dead, she's not formally dead. So there's that, which very directly, I think, mirrors pretty much everyone in Hill House who's died, Liv especially, who's having the strangest dream. And then Hannah very nearly spits out the confetti line.
Yeah, that was one of the
only Hill House fans would, like people who have seen Hill House, would understand what she was about to say.
I actually watched Bly Manor first, and I had no idea until like later on.
I was thinking the entire time you were talking about that, I was like, oh, the confetti line was lost on you, or the line that wasn't.
Bye, Christina. Christina's heading out because she has not seen Bly Manor.
It's late, yeah.
Hey, girl.
Thank you so much for watching.
Yes. And Kat also said this is why she loves movies and TV shows, because it's always a roller coaster of emotions. It is, which I'll go ahead and kind of give you guys some, just because I know we're running a little over. I figured we'd go 2 hours, honestly. I was like,
yeah, it would be so hard not to.
Yeah. Okay. So the first one is Olivia tells Nell when she comes back to the Forever House, you're expected. When she's like, we need to go down. When Danny first comes to Bly Manor, Flora's first line to her is, you're expected.
I missed that.
Yeah. Hey, Connor.
That's a line from the book.
You had work. I'm talking in though. Thank you. It's okay. We're actually at the very end. We're talking about like parallels between Hill House and Bly Manor, which are the two different shows. But you do need to see them both. They're both awesome.
Yeah, Connor, stick around. I think we're mostly done with spoilers.
We are mostly done with spoilers. We're like, what we're talking about isn't really like super spoilery. No. It has a little.
Well, I think I nailed like the one twist of Bly Manor in my statement. So I don't think there's anything else.
Which none of this is really. This next one's kind of spoilery. Peter tells Miles he'll tuck him away forever in the Forever House. In his he uses the word Forever House.
Did not notice that. Yeah, I think it's probably time to rewatch Bly Manor.
I know. Tim and Katie, you're killing it with the backdrop, and I need to step up my game.
Connor, when we started, that candle was like up to here, and now it's
now leaking wax onto the table.
It's all good.
Katie's wearing her our Hocus Pocus shirt.
Oh, don't call attention to the shirts.
And I'm wearing my homemade. I'm wearing my homemade skull ears. These were the first pair of ears I want to say I ever made. They're really, really poorly made.
You made them?
I did make these. They're bad. They're bad down here, but you just can't see it.
Well, you can't see that.
And then it's perfect because it's red on the back. It's like the red.
Yeah, there you go.
And then this was for Olivia's color storms. So I kind of tried. But I don't have the cool background like Tim and Katie. Okay, but yeah, so tucked away forever in the Forever House. He also says to Miles, nothing sad will touch you ever again, whereas Olivia says nothing bad will touch you ever again. Hannah tells Owen, and Miles also tells Mrs. Gross that they're having the strangest dreams. So that comes up, like Olivia would say. Charlotte actually tells Henry, who played Hugh, Charlotte says, I can fix it before she goes on the trip. And that was Hugh's line.
I can fix it. There's so much more. Yeah,
Charlotte tells Henry that. Peter, this one killed me. I didn't even see it. But Peter says the line, I was here the whole time. You just couldn't see me. He says it on there too. And then also the last one that they had on here is the Come Home Nell that was drawn. Flora sends Miles a come home drawing.
Oh, that one I should have got.
Okay. Yeah. So there were some nice ones.
The other one that I just thought of while you were going through your list is that time is not linear in either show.
Yeah.
You're basically working from the climax backwards to figure out what happened, as opposed to working forward up to a climax.
It's beautiful. I also cry. I didn't cry every episode in Bly Manor, but that last episode, No. Danny and Jamie just murdered me. That is, I mean, oh my gosh. And then like the wedding scene at the end. Oh, I'm just falling. Just falling. A blubber mess every time I watch it. I'm just like, Kat, to be honest, I do not know. I don't think, okay. Well, Tim and Katie were they actually messaged me and wanted to do this because we had talked about doing it, and they had this Saturday free. And y'all usually do a lot on the weekends, I know.
We do.
So I do appreciate you taking this time, which my plan was to come back on Sundays and start doing my Marvel chats. Because I love having these, and I don't know what direction. I love talking about shows, but I'm not sure what direction I'm coming yet, Kat, but I will keep doing these. I probably just won't have one next weekend just because I kind of want to get it together. I'm getting my life together. But I do appreciate you coming. You're always a fun time. Yes, we need you know which one we do need to have eventually? We need to have a Buffy one. Did y'all watch Buffy?
Man, I'm gonna have to reach back for that.
You're 4 seasons short.
Yeah,
I
think
She watched halfway through all the way through season 3.
Yeah, I thought I got through season 4.
Season 4 is college.
Kat, do you like Buffy? I feel like you did.
No, I had met like.
Yeah, Kat did. Okay, I thought you said that.
Yeah, I had met Tara. I had gotten to
so
college.
halfway through season 4.
I mean, you're welcome to take. I mean, I wouldn't mind going back through Buffy. I had a lot of fun, and I was borrowing the DVDs from him back before I think we were even dating, actually.
Well, now everything is on streaming, so we don't.
Yeah, that would be a very controversial lot. I mean, I got some thoughts on that show. There's a lot, like, I mean, I get into like the whole Buffy, Angel, Buffy, Spike, all the mess in that, it's just craziness.
Before there was Twilight, there was Buffy.
I know, it's true. It's true. Connor, I honestly think Jake has left me.
No, what if he's hanging out
the entire time? So I do, because I quit doing the Marvel lives, and I was just going to take the 2-week break, and then I couldn't. The deal with the Marvel lives was that my Iron Man reaction video was on my old laptop. Only on my old laptop. I'd already deleted the footage off my camera. Idiot. And because I didn't know my computer was going to die and break on me. So I can't find my charger for that. I'm looking for it right now. And I'm going to try to salvage that footage. But I wanted to get that together before the lives. And I might just have to start doing the lives anyways. But yeah. And Kat also mentioned Veronica Mars. I've never seen Veronica Mars, actually. But I've heard it's good.
I didn't watch all of it, but I watched all of the original. I never went back for the new show, and I saw the first movie, not the second movie.
There's a second movie?
I think they did a second movie.
There's a second.
Maybe it's a second series.
So
I can't remember.
I went, and so I was addicted to Veronica Mars for the first 2 seasons, and then as I got into the 3rd season, I heard from the internet and from my coworkers and from just rumblings around the community that the 3rd season ended on a cliffhanger, that no one was happy with it, and then they kind of detoured because they had a plan that couldn't be finished. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stop here then, because the episode that I couldn't even for the life of me tell you what episode it was. But the episode I ended on, I was like, you know what? I'm in a happy spot. I feel like all the questions that I have are resolved. And then they came out with the movie, and I was like, well, okay, then the movie is supposed to be its finishing move. Maybe I'll go back, but I never did.
I know what happens in the new series or new movie or whatever, and I'm not happy about it, so I kind of refuse to watch it and then don't want to acknowledge its existence. And maybe that's what Kat's referring to as well. I'm like,
he said she yelled bad words.
Kat, I'm Team Logan.
Well, yeah, I'm not happy about it. So, but I did like that show a lot, and I thought Kristen Stewart was great.
Kristen Stewart is the one who can't act. You're talking.
Kristen
Bell. Sorry.
Do not do Kristen Bell that way, man.
Sorry.
Do not do that. Do not do that.
No,
and
you're confusing peppy,
we were
sarcastic.
Talking about Twilight before the other one. Yes,
Kat's very upset.
I think Kat and I are on the same page, but I won't say it because it is a major spoiler. So anyway.
I will say in terms of future lives, I do know at some point in the future, we probably will do Buffy. It'll probably be way down the road because we're going to let Sweet Katie take her time and her sweet time catching up. So you just let me know, Katie. I'm joking. I don't know if it was with Tim and Katie. I think it was though, but I know Christina was very interested in doing a Pirates of the Caribbean live at one point and talking about Pirates of the Caribbean because I love that series as well. In the future, I kind of want to do Vampire Diaries, but I do want to keep doing Marvel as well because I haven't really. I've seen all of them.
Loki.
Yeah, we do have Loki coming up too.
Yeah, Loki. I thought Loki might be when I jump back on the bandwagon.
Loki's going to be very time consuming for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. April said Pirates of the Caribbean. We got to talking. I thought it was with Tim and Katie, but I got to talking one time about something, how we got on Pirates of the Caribbean. Don't know. This is one of my early shows when we really sidetracked.
I think it was with us. We were sidetracking bad. And it was like, Pirates, we got to do a live for that. Hill House, we got to do a live for that.
I remember what happened. We started talking about Justice for Johnny Depp. And then it went spiraled.
Oh, yeah. It was so bad. But I remember a lot of people actually did surprisingly have a big interest in Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a surprise. I'm a big fan of it, though. So we shall have that organized eventually. I do have one I might be doing coming up. I'm going to be secret about it. It'll be coming up in June though. I found out something today and I was like, ooh, I feel like this one would be perfect. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. So it may be coming in June if I can get it together. If other people in my group like this movie, we'll see. I'll message you guys after the fact. I'm going to see if y'all like it. Oh yeah, then we'll have to talk about Justice for Johnny.
April's in. That's a done deal. It's us and April.
What movie? Okay, I don't want to say right now. I don't want to spoil yet. I will message you though, Kat. I will message you on Instagram because you messaged me before. We'll talk on Instagram. I don't want to spoil it because I don't want anyone.
Can you get Mike Flanagan's email?
Put on there.
Here?
What did you say?
Can you get Mike Flanagan's email for me while you're messaging me?
Just DM it to me, Kat. DM it. But yeah, I know I'm being kind of secretive about it just because I feel like it's something people would jump on and there would be more than me just doing it because it's kind of for a special occasion, not just randomly. Like this was random. I told them, I was like, I don't know if anyone's going to show up because this is just like a random, like this came out a while ago. I was like, but since we're at the end, we have, and I'm just randomly holding a Beanie Baby because this was on my desk. It's a Princess Diana baby.
Haley, our candle went out.
That's
out.
to show that time has passed.
Time has passed.
Okay. Oh. So as we're ending this and wrapping this crazy mess up because we're different. And I'm tired. We have some really exciting news. I will be going with Tim and Katie. And where are we going, Tim and Katie, in October?
To Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios.
We're hoping, fingers crossed, that they have a haunted house that is themed after The Haunting of Hill House. So
the rumor.
It's a very well-defined rumor that we feel very good about.
Yeah, and we're also going to be there for the opening of Ratatouille, which is going to be awesome. I'm still finger crossed somehow we can stay awake 24 hours and go to the little boo ball.
We're hoping there's a boo bash. We're hoping there's a boo bash.
Boo bash, yeah.
So if we are able to go to Boo Bash, which is not a guarantee, it would be at Magic Kingdom on the actual 50th anniversary, on the day of. So that would be it's already going to be a legendary weekend, but if we can pull that one out of the hat, that would be a legend. One for the books.
We're going to have bags under our eyes, looking like ghosts from Hill House. We'll fit in at Halloween Horror Nights.
I know, they'll think we're actors.
Yeah, they're going to think we're actors. Oh, Connor says he's inviting himself. Connor,
I guess
Connor,
you can go.
Yeah, like in a perfect world, we would all go to Boo Bash together because then we can all.
I wish we could have like a group trip, but we'll see. We'll see who all's there. April said that they might go at the end of September, so we're going. It's like the very beginning of October 1st, the 4th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Friday through the following. I mean, we're not staying for a week. We're there for
I wish
3 days and 1 night. 3 days and 1 extra.
So
night.
October 1st is when we're getting there. So we might, if you go at the very tail end, we might be there. And then Kat said she might be there in October, but she's definitely going to be there in November from the 9th through the 12th, which is awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm grateful for Tim and Katie for inviting me because they reached out and invited me. And I was like, yes.
You have to share Hill House with another Hill House fan.
That's kind of where all of this started because like Halloween Horror Nights for those who haven't been before, and we haven't been before. So this is
never been. I'm not even a horror fan. And I was like, yeah.
I know in Hollywood, the Universal Hollywood's version of the event, they're pretty lax about camera rules. But in Orlando, for whatever reason, they're much more strict about what you can and can't do in the houses, and usually you're not allowed to film. So we got the speculation map that said Haunting of Hill House was there, and Kaylee was so sad that she was not going to be able to experience it, and we were like, well, we can't even bring her footage back. She has to come.
She has to see it herself.
I must see it.
Hopefully.
So
I know it just worked. I mean, honestly, it's such the perfect time to go. And it's such a jam-packed weekend, which I don't, I'm like a little Energizer bunny. Okay. Like I go, but Tim and Katie, I'll kind of go to their level. I try to like whoever I'm with, I'm like, what do y'all want to do? Because I can go, but what do y'all want to do? Because I can go with ever level. But I'm also like, if y'all want to stay, like if we need to go, we can go. Go hard, do it for the vlog. So
it's gonna be awesome.
It'll be fun. Tim and Katie will be vlogging what we can vlog, and I will try to do a few little vlogs myself. And I don't know what we'll do. We'll wrangle Connor in if he's there, and April will be wrangling people in, and we'll see what we can do and have some fun. I know, sadly, I'm not getting to do the Disney College program this year or ever because I'm, I've got a real life
college student anymore.
It's sad. It's a sad thing. A lot of my friends, like my roommate, I was gonna have is doing it, but I was like, I will be down there. We can, like, if you guys see me, like, it'll be great. So I'm going to be trying to meet some people here and there, like, passing by and, like, have some meet and greets with, like, my friends. Mostly be with Tim and Katie, though, because they're awesome. So, again, thank you guys for inviting me. I'm talking craziness. I'm very scattered right now.
No, we're all scattered.
Very scattered.
It's going to be a great weekend.
Yes, it is.
But looking forward to it for a while.
Thank you so much to Tim and Katie for coming. What else do y'all guys have coming up on your channel other than our awesome October trip?
So we just posted today one of our last trip vlogs from the most recent Disney trip. Before that, we were at Busch Gardens. So because that festival's more limited, we wanted to get those vlogs up first. But the Epcot Flower and Garden vlog went up today where we actually met up with Connor for the first time. So that's a fun, fairly proud of that release, even though it took forever and a half.
I'm excited. I almost watched it and I was like, oh, I'm about to see them though, and I don't have the time to watch this whole video.
No, it's all good. Take your time.
I'm excited.
And then we're actually going, I can actually find out right this second,
It's less than 2 weeks.
11 days.
11 days.
To Universal for the first time since February 2020, before the pandemic hit. To participate in the Orlando Informer event, where I think we're expecting to see Connor again.
Yep.
But it'll depend very much on his schedule. So we're looking forward to that. We're also going to spend a couple days in Disney because you can't go down there and not touch Disney at all. And then beyond that, it's subjective. I'm going to dangle this because I know that everyone who's watching will probably be interested. It's not a sure thing because the rules and regulations haven't allowed it thus far. But we do have a tentative booking for the wildest, craziest, quickest turnaround weekend we've ever had, flying to Disneyland for 1 day.
Ooh.
And then coming back.
Are y'all staying the night at all? Or y'all
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I was about to say.
Fly there.
It would be a 24-hour day.
Spend the day at Disneyland, stay over, and then fly home the next day.
And then the flight is, well, with the time exchange between California and we're on the East Coast, we'll lose 5 hours in flight. No, 3. 3 hours in flight, but it's a 5-hour flight. So we'll lose 8 hours on that flight.
So we'll leave at like 8 a.m. there, but then arrive at 8 hours later here. So it'll and then I got to go to work the next day.
Yep.
So
there's no more time off. So we're out of vacation.
We'll see if I'm sick that day or not.
Don't even try, Connor. I mean, don't even try. I have the live shows that they come on. Okay.
guys, please.
There's room.
If you're going to compete, the best way is to buy us gifts.
Don't buy me any more stuff. I don't need more stuff.
For real, Connor, when he met y'all, he texted me and he's like, I'm going to try to be their best friend. I'm going to beat you out. I was like, oh, it's going down.
Oh, we love seeing you guys. And we
can't
wait to see you through more than just a screen, Kaylee. We're very excited about that.
I know. And I told Connor, I was like, you better be off of work, okay? That one weekend, I'm going to be down there. Gotta get
5 months in advance.
You have plenty of heads up, but you also have 3 different opportunities. I mean, Boo Bash, the day we're going to Epcot for the opening of Ratatouille, and then the Universal Horror Night.
Halloween Horror Nights.
You could not possibly have a wider net.
Nope. You gotta, it'd be like Monday morning, like right before my flight, and he comes to hang out with y'all.
That would be so.
Hi, Kaylee. Nice to meet you. Let me go hang out with Tim and Katie while you go get on your.
You're probably just gonna be swimming that day. That'll be Hard Rock Hotel pool.
Swoop your swimsuit. I'm scattered.
After, like the last, we stayed on it so well for like the first 2 hours,
I know.
and then we went scattered.
It went downhill.
Been in the Hill House for too long.
Nope. I'm
getting affected.
I'm getting digested.
Yes. So before we go, I was just gonna say really quick with my channel coming up. I'm trying to get my life together, as I say every single live show. I really am. But I am trying to at least do 1 video a week. And I have some fun content coming out. I've filmed a lot. I've just got to edit it. And there will be more of these shows coming out. I've got a lot in the works. It's just getting it together. So I'm a scattered person, and that's what you came here for. So. Yeah. Anyways, we'll see you next time. We missed you, Jake, if you happen to be.
And all that shade we threw was just playful banter.
I know. If you happen to watch the end, we miss you, bud. We miss you. Bye.